what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And we are live. Greetings to our loyal WFYL listeners around the world. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream, only on the Freedom Station. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again, because you still have the right to hear and the right to be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike G. As always, with me are Philly Chris, Russ the producer, Liberty Lee, and Phil Duffy. And you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters. And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. I want to remind our listeners that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week by visiting MikeGinthemorning.com. What's it called, Philly Chris?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
How about you, Russ, the producer?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
Professor Phil Duffy, what is it called?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your barber, tell your Uncle Jerry, tell Phil Duffy, tell anybody who listens to check us out at MikeGinthemorning.com.
Wait a second, you can't tell Phil Duffy anything.
Okay. I should have known better, Phil. I also want to remind our audience about the powerhouse lineup we've got here at the Freedom Station. Kick off your mornings with Scott Adams bringing you the Scott Adams Show, weekdays from 9 a.m. until 11. We've got a very special program and a special guest in the house today. We've got the Kinetic Faith preaching values, service, and order with host Rick Crump, weekdays at 11 a.m. We've got the one, the only Dan the Man Bongino bringing you the Dan Bongino Show weekdays from noon until 3 p.m. Intellectual giant Ben Shapiro bringing you the Ben Shapiro Show weekdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And finally, we want to welcome him to the Freedom Station family. We've got Michael Knowles bringing you the Michael Knowles Show weekdays from 5 to 6 p.m. So don't forget to tune in and show him some love. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hit it, Russ.
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
That never gets old. I'll tell you what else doesn't get old. We've got a very special moment and event here at the Freedom Station family, don't we, Philly Chris?
Yeah, we sure do. It's great to be here.
Coming up on an anniversary. It has been how many years since the Freedom Station was ultimately founded? Is it 9 years?
9 years.
9
Yeah,
years,
9
celebrating
years.
9 years, Susan and Al Locke. Beautiful things they've done to preserve our freedoms, get the message out there, and preserve our First Amendment rights. We've got a very special guest joining us here at the top of the hour, Professor Phil Duffy, the one and only. Thank you for joining us, Phil.
Well, I'll tell you, it's really good to be live.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun, and you never know what can happen when things are
it's a
live,
little more
right?
Exciting, right?
Yeah, and it's also good to be alive.
I had to hold you down in the corner before we started, Phil. I said, listen, Phil, you really can't say so many curse words on the air, right?
I thought those could be bleeped out.
Well, you know.
Not when we're live. That's the one thing about going live, Phil.
Oh gosh, I just don't understand this. I
Test
guess I've been
process
dead
all
for
that.
so long, right?
So, Phil, how long have you been doing programs with the Freedom Station WFYL?
I believe about 5 years.
Wow.
But I am getting up there in years, so I don't put those things together that well.
So obviously you've got a tremendous background in terms of your education and you teaching other individuals and the importance of our Constitution, a very well-established professional life as well. What drew you to be on air with the Freedom Station? What drives you to do so?
Well, Al and I met at a Westchester Tea Party meeting. And we started talking about his show, and I don't know which one of us initiated it, but somehow I got, for a single show I was supposed to come on, and have never left.
They roped you in, right?
Well, I guess I'm like a bad penny. You just can't get rid of me.
Just can't get rid of you. Well, lots of great things have happened in those 5 years. Have you noticed the attack that there is on any sort of media outlet that tends to lean conservative or says anything that doesn't line up lockstep with what the mainstream media has to say?
Well, I certainly do, but I have to tell you, I'm a liberal.
What?
Hold on, let me get his mic.
wait,
Hold on a minute.
I think you need to bleep that out.
Hey,
Right,
bleep
right.
that out. Hey,
the
we're
button
going to
rest,
replace
hit
it
the
with
button rest.
mustard-eating knucklehead, right?
That's right.
But I want to emphasize that I am a classical liberal.
Sure.
Okay.
Just the very opposite of those socialists and progressives that are messing up our lives.
So really what you're doing by saying that and getting this out there is you're fact-checking the leftists, right? You're fact-checking the fact-checkers by saying this is what a liberal truly is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's our job.
I think
Get to the truth.
I think you and I, a few years back, did an episode of We the People, and you went through so many influential people in the United States of America from early on and said, doesn't this sound like a liberal to you by its definition? Do you recall that episode?
Actually, I don't.
Oh, goodness, Phil. It was so monumental in my mind. I was like, this is awesome. This is unbelievable. I'll remember this for the rest of my life. You didn't even remember it a week afterwards.
That's the way I am. I'm about as superficial as you get.
And so, Phil, the last time we had you on this program, we were discussing the state of our economy, and you were talking about some potential pitfalls and some real concerns with potential collapse of the dollar. Where do those concerns stand today? Because so much has happened since then, and it doesn't look like it's going in the right direction, does it?
Now, they're worse. Much worse.
Much worse.
And so you hear a lot of talk about cryptocurrencies and that kind of thing. Fed coin, the idea that we'll do away with the existing currency and everybody will get a card which has a direct line into the IRS so that every transaction that you are involved with will be recorded by the IRS, and they'll tax it up front.
What could possibly go wrong with that, right,
Yeah,
Phil?
that sounds great.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. What do you think of cryptocurrency? Because you have a lot of people where when Bitcoin was at, say, $1,500, they were saying, oh, this is going to be worth nothing someday. You know, you can't depend on this thing. Why would you bother investing your money? And now it's up around 60,000, right?
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of fads, and this could be a fad. I have to admit that I've tried to understand crypto, and I have, in 5 years, I don't think I've figured it out.
Wow.
So that's a little frightening to me. There's a newsletter that came out called Money. I think it's Money Insights, which really got into this and raised some really technical issues. So I'm going to still start to study this a little bit more and see if I can get to the bottom of it. One thing I know, we don't want to be in that currency that we're on right now because that is
right.
going to the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
So why do you say it's going to the floor for somebody who might be wondering? They say, oh, I listened to Uncle Joe Biden up there saying that everything's just fine and dandy and I've got nothing to worry about in terms of the dollar. Why is it going to the floor?
Well, if you can picture, if you have a printer that has a copier associated with it, now everybody has the ability, if you will, according to this thinking of the Fed, to print whatever money they want, right?
Sure.
Except that's against the law.
Mm.
Only the Fed can counterfeit.
Mm. That's right.
Okay, so we've got a problem here.
Are there still laws?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's
They
a
don't
very good
apply to
point.
everybody. That's the problem.
Yeah. No, so I think we've got a problem. I mean, and this is an old problem. It goes back, I think, something like 300 years, believe it or not, with the Mississippi Scheme and the South Sea Bubble. There was a guy by the name of John Law who first got this idea that all you had to do was print money, and that would create wealth.
No.
Well,
It's
as
simple.
we know, it doesn't work that way.
Is
There
that
is no
guy
such
related to
thing
AOC or? It sounds awfully familiar.
No, AOC, that's a 3-letter word.
Yeah, that's right.
And not a 4-letter word, right?
And Phil, I am no economist, but for the caveman that I am, it seems as simple as the principle, common sense principle. If I've got this bottle of water and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in the room, and we've only got this bottle of water, and I say this is for sale, there's going to be some kind of value assigned to this one available bottle of water, right?
Right.
Now, if we walk in with a case of 200 bottles of water, we've got 6 people, you're not going to get the same price for that bottle of water.
Yeah, that's called the marginal utility theory.
No, of course, I knew that. I just wanted you to say it. Of course, the marginal utility. Yeah.
Marginally understandable.
Marginally understandable. We were having a conversation about northern Jersey before we got on the air, and we start talking about it, and Phil says something along the lines, oh, that's the 4th geological, what did you call it?
There are 4 geological areas in New Jersey, starting from the coastal plain to the Triassic Midlands to the Highlands, and then finally the upper corner of North Jersey is the Appalachian Belt.
And that's called the 4th geological...
4th geological zone.
The 4th geological zone. And I told Phil, next time I'm in North Jersey, I'm standing around at a party, I'm going to say, we're actually in the 4th geological zone right now. And sound like I know what I'm talking about.
You will get attention.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or unless I get some nerd there who studies the geological zone. No offense to you, Phil. I'm not knocking on you, Phil. I regretted that as the words came out of it. No, get back over here.
No, actually, I'm honored by that.
You're honored by it. So, Phil, if you had to say a few words about what it means to be on the Freedom Station and what the Freedom Station means to you, Susan and Alan, everything that they've done for all of us and for the preservation of freedom, what would those words be to our audience?
Well, it's just wonderful to be with so many friends of freedom, and it's wonderful to know that Al and Susan have put this together, and that Susan is continuing with this marvelous effort. I think this is just a tremendous service to the community, and I hope that more and more people will hear about WFYL, the Freedom Station.
Absolutely.
Because people need to hear the truth. The truth is few and far between these days when you look at the mainstream media. And even aside from the mainstream media, you've got all these other outlets that people had deemed trustworthy on our side of the aisle for many years, and we're starting to find out that maybe that's not so true anymore. Would you agree?
Well, the mainstream media and the truth perhaps are mutually exclusive concepts.
Right. Right, because they've got an interest in putting certain things out there. So, Phil, if you wanted everybody to pay attention to one thing, and you wanted to give them a warning about something that maybe people aren't seeing, understanding at this point in time, is there anything you could throw out there that'll help our listeners?
Well, to put them in a positive frame, because we've heard so many things that are bad, it seems to me that it is a part of human nature. It's part of the natural law that man yearns for freedom. And just as there are dark days right now, I think we're going to see better days. And this could be the darkness close to the dawn.
Well, Phil, thank you so much for everything that you've done for the Freedom Station. Thank you for your service. Phil's also a veteran. Got to always throw that out there.
Thank you, Phil.
And thank you for continuing to contribute to the knowledge of the Freedom Station airwaves. We appreciate that. And with that, we'll cut you loose. We've had it with you. Thanks, Phil. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. We've actually got another very special guest who's going to be joining us here in just a moment. He's decided not to take off and leave the room hearing the first few minutes of the program. I thought we would have scared him away. Take it easy, Phil. Thanks for joining us. We've got Rick Crump, the host of Kinetic Faith, right here on the Freedom Station Airways. Been talking about you for quite some time now. Have not had the opportunity to formally introduce myself, and we appreciate you being here, Rick.
Yeah, it's great to be with you guys. I actually did try to leave. but apparently they locked it from the outside.
And then Russ tackled him and was sitting on top of him. You're not going anywhere, sir.
What's with these guys? When are going to be on this show?
You're in here for the long haul. So, Rick, why don't you tell some of our listeners about your program?
Yeah, thank you. I would sum it up this way. If there's one thing that our program answers for you, it's what can we do about what the situation is we're in today. We offer hope, not just in words, but in actions and deeds. The organization Kinetic Faith that I founded 3 years ago is all about training, equipping, and mobilizing God's people in the community that want to fight the secular leftism, that want to take back and restore our Judeo-Christian values and secure our liberties. So we're a doing organization. And the whole point of the show is to bring the information to people so that they can know what to do. Every show has a call to action. It's very practical. It's meaningful. And so we're there to offer hope and give people a path forward so we can take our country back.
So what's your background? Where are you from originally?
Before I was in the room?
Sure. Yeah, well, where you in the room? Let's go to a few minutes ago. All right.
Yeah, I live in Reading, and my background is in management consulting. So for over 20 years, I've been working with large Fortune 500 companies, helping solve complex problems in classical areas of process optimization, digital enablement, strategic planning, customer experience, all the things like that. And I became very deeply convicted over the years that there was a gap between what we were hearing in the pulpit and what God's word said. And, as goes the church, so goes society.
Sure.
And so the more I started to see that gap grow, the more I would engage with pastors and elders. And of course, that was a little bit frustrating to see their lack of enthusiasm to engage cultural issues and so I honestly hold the position that a lot of what's happened in society today is at the church's feet. And we're trying to turn that around and show and demonstrate the love of Christ by showing people that one of the ways you demonstrate that is to interpose on behalf of your neighbor. And as I was going through my consulting career, I just realized I had the skill, the mindset, the skill sets, and the tool sets to solve these problems. Could I bring them into the public square and train people to go up against the professionals to do this? Because one of the things we've discovered is there's nobody representing us anymore. Whether it's a politician, whether it's the lawyers that we hire, whoever it is, none of them are truly representing what we need to do to restore our country. And so we have to train and support people to go do that on their own. And we do that through the team of teams concept, where we train them and equip them to do that.
I was thinking about that when you talked about your professional background. I was wondering if you approach this venture that same way, where there are issues, there are problems that we're seeing, and we need to figure out how to systematically solve those problems. Yeah. Is that a big part of it?
Yeah, I've had the privilege of consulting in 7 different industries, which is
Wow.
that's not very common. And I don't say that to promote myself, just to say where I'm going with this is, early on, people would ask me what I wanted to promote and what customers I wanted, and I'd say, well, I want the companies.
Rick, do me a favor, turn your mic around a little.
Oh, sorry.
There
This
you
way?
go. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Talking to the side of it.
There you go. Bingo! Now we hear you.
So this is the problem. I'm the.
Wait, am you hearing me now?
Yeah, everybody thought his name was Nick Rump.
That's right.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just getting the high sign from Russ over there.
Yeah, not sure where we left off there, but
Yeah, you're saying you were consulting in 7 different industries.
Yeah,
This isn't very
so-
common.
So people would ask me, well, what kind of companies are you looking for? I'd say, well, I'm looking for companies that have 3 kinds of problems: people, process, and technology. And they'd say, well, that's all industries. And I'd say, yes, that's the point.
Right.
Because once you understand how to solve people, process, and technology problems, you can pretty much consult anywhere and do anything, because those are the common denominators. And guess what? That's the same problems we have in society. For instance, we have a process problem with our electoral process. We have people problems with the way people are behaving and acting in an immoral fashion and a corrupt fashion. We have technology problems that are preventing us from reaching out to one another. And so we approach these things in a very similar way when we build these teams. And having built teams for 20 years, I just felt very called to go do this.
So when you were meeting with these companies initially, and these teams as you're calling them, was it important to you that these places were willing to change the way they were doing things?
Yes. One of the things that's tried and true about change is people will not change until the change they need to go through is less painful than the status quo they're in. In other words, people will hold on for dear life to the status quo they're in until it's like the devil you know versus the devil you don't know.
Sure.
It's only once the devil you don't know becomes more appealing than the devil you know.
Right.
And that's really what we're trying to show people here. And thankfully, just as a real aside, a quick aside, 2.5 years ago when I founded Kinetic Faith, it was very frustrating to try and motivate people to get up off the bench and fight for themselves because they believed that they had professionals doing it for them, right? The 78-day window between election day and inauguration day, everybody woke up and said,
Of course.
nobody's coming to help us.
Of course.
My phone started ringing again in January, and it's just taken off like a rocket ever since. So we were a little ahead of our time, but you know what's interesting? God used that because we had all the infrastructure and the learning curves we had gone through, so that by the time this thing did take off, we were well positioned to help.
Have you ever run into a business, I'm sure you have, where you go in there, they want your help, but you take a look inside and say, this is beyond repair. You guys are so broken, you've waited too long, it is now too late.
Yes and no. I nothing is beyond repair unless we refuse to do something about it. Now, that said, those who refuse to do something about it are beyond repair. And I think for instance, I think the very thing that we're wrestling with in the Republican Party today with the establishment rhinos, and we think, oh, they're beyond repair, we need to replace them, is not too far different than the problems we have in the pulpit today, where we have to either get pastors to be restored to God's word and interposition and facing and confronting the issues of society. That's what every great revival had in common. Or we need to replace them. And that's really the crossroads that we're at. So to answer your question, it's really a question that each of us has to answer for our own. Are we willing to change? Are we willing to go forward? And are pastors and willing to lead that?
So we got to primary a bunch of our pastors. Is that what you're saying?
You're not too far off. You're not too far off.
Pastors need to be primaried.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention, and just starting to draw the connection here a little bit, that you spoke to some of the pastors and they were very hesitant to be involved in any sort of cultural issues. Is that a fair description of what you were saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had a pastor once look at me in a private meeting. We were talking about doing one of our workshops at their church. And he was a little nervous about my interpretation of some scripture and getting our hands dirty and the whole getting involved in the public square thing. And I said to him, but you know, America used to be a Judeo-Christian culture. And he says, I agree with you, Rick. And if America was more of a Judeo-Christian culture, then we should be more involved. But because it's not a Judeo-Christian culture anymore, we shouldn't be involved.
Really?
I kid you not. You can't make that up. And right now, I think pastors fit into one of three buckets. They're either waking up and they're saying, what do I need to do to be in this fight? They're either running for cover and making all kinds of excuses, or they're frustrated because they want to do something, but they don't know where to start. The good news is, if you're either in the bucket where you're ready to run or you just don't know what to do, we can help you. If you're in the other bucket though, which is pretty populated, where you are running for cover and you don't want to be involved and you're making up all kinds of excuses, we can't help you, you can't help you, and God won't help you.
Do you find that some of the pastors and congregations, though, that stay away from the social and cultural issues end up becoming incredibly popular and have a large congregation, and they're sort of rewarded for doing that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to end up with two kinds of justice, either God's justice or social justice. And what you end up with promoting is you run away from God's justice and you take on man's interpretation or perversion of justice, and you go the popular route. Christ said, narrow is the way that leads to life. And ever since he said that, we've been trying to improve his close ratio. We think we've bought into this notion that somehow we're supposed to make that path wider instead of just sticking to his truth. The reason he said it's narrow is because when you stick to his truth, people are forced to make a hard decision whether to accept or reject God's word. And that's what he wants us to do. And so what we've been doing is we've been dumbing down God's word to make it more palatable and conning ourselves into believing that somehow that's going to work and make things better. And now we're literally seeing the fruit of our labor, and we're seeing Christ said bear fruit. He didn't say bear rotten fruit, and we're seeing the consequence. One of the things that people will often criticize our organization about is, but Mike, God's in control. You shouldn't be doing this. But Mike, God, I say, you know the number one way to tell God's in control? He makes you reap what you've sown. He makes you reap what you've sown. You cannot escape the consequences of your action and your inaction. And if you look around what's happening today, there's a direct correlation between as we've withdrawn from society, as we've made excuses, and as we've turned our backs, society has gotten worse. And now we're saying, oh, it's the end. Well, you know what? I don't know if you really want it to be the end, quite frankly, because last time I looked at my Bible, it said judgment begins with the house of God.
Yeah. Well, is that sort of like the story about the guy who's on the roof during the flood and God's going to save him?
I use that story all the time. I actually expand upon it. I say, the flood came, and there was the weatherman who predicted the flood, and I didn't leave. There was the guy who drove his pickup truck when the water was at the first story, and I didn't leave. There was the guy who brought the boat to the second story window, and I didn't leave. And then there was the guy who brought the helicopter, and I didn't leave. And all 4 times I said, God will save me. I get to the pearly gates. I look at Christ, and he says, well, I sent you a weatherman, a pickup truck, a boat, and a helicopter. What more did you want?
What do you want, knucklehead?
And it really is that simple. That when people, let me say it this way: when somebody ever says to you, well, we'll pray and God will work it out, ask them this one question: how do you think that solution will be manifested through that prayer? How do you think God works through prayer, and what does it look like for God to answer prayer? And you know what it always is? God sends people. God doesn't open up the sky, split it, and put rainbows, unicorns, or lightning bolts out. He doesn't condescend himself. Is he capable of doing that? Absolutely. But he chooses to use people. And probably the best illustrated example of this is when the Holy Spirit sent Philip to the eunuch in Acts. The Holy Spirit could have opened the eunuch's eyes by himself. Why did he send Philip? Why did he need Moses to go free the slaves?
Right.
He could have melted Pharaoh's hearts right there. He could have driven them into the sea. Sure. God chooses to use us, and it isn't because he thinks we're special, and it isn't because he's incapable. It's because he wants us to take responsibility and demonstrate love to our neighbor, and the only way we can do that is when we obey him. God has a plan, he doesn't have a plan B, and we're refusing to be part of his plan, and we're reaping the consequences because of it.
Philly, Chris, they were talking about that in our Bible study, the eunuch story. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was a few weeks back.
He says, how can I understand what I'm reading unless someone explains it to me? Right then and there, I will look at most pastors and go, so why didn't the Holy Spirit just explain it to him?
Right.
Is the Holy Spirit capable of explaining it to him?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're not sitting there saying that the Holy Spirit is incapable. We're sitting there saying the Holy Spirit has chosen to use us, not because we're special, but because he calls us to be responsible in loving our neighbor. How much? Just if I could make this point, I know I'm rambling right now.
No.
But let me put it this way: we keep talking about how people need Jesus. How many churches are really even evangelizing anymore? How many? If the people in your congregation were really challenged to write down the last 3 people that they brought to Christ in the past 10 years, how many could write 3 names? And what we're finding here is that people are losing confidence. People are losing confidence, and they need to regain that confidence. And interposition is the number one way to restore that confidence in both them and the person they're evangelizing to. Because here's the thing. When I tell you that there is a Jesus Christ and a God the Father on the other side of heaven that's going to judge you for all of eternity and determine your fate, but then I tell you, I don't say this, but this is what's going through your mind.
Sure.
That same Jesus can't stop sex trafficking. That same Jesus can't stop the indoctrination of my children.
Right, or 9/11. I mean, they get these questions all the time.
These are very practical issues that are man-made. And when we tell people that they need Jesus, but they're looking at us like, your Jesus you're saying he's big enough to judge me in the next world, but he's not big enough to make a difference in this world? That's not acceptable. The slaves that were freed during the abolitionist movement came to Christ in droves. And one of the things that really compelled them was they were looking at people that risked their lives for them that didn't even know them. And then when those people told them about the Christ that compelled them to live an interpositionary life, that compelled those people. We are preaching an emasculated Jesus right now that we don't even believe in ourselves, and it's making us lose confidence. We need to get our dirt under our fingernails, love our neighbor through our actions, and demonstrate the love of Jesus Christ in making a difference in today's society. I'm not talking about bringing the kingdom of God into making everything perfect. It's much less sexier than that. It's about fighting evil to the day you die, and then passing the torch to the next generation. That's what the story is, and that's what we're called to do.
Well, you have some very high-profile pastors on television being asked these sorts of questions by, let's say, an Oprah Winfrey, right? Somebody who's very popular in the mainstream, and they seem to shy away from the issue as to whether Jesus is the only way, right? They seem to say, well, I don't know, I'm not so sure.
I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me.
I know.
Pretty black and white.
Well, everybody's got to make their own decisions kind of thing. They're really, really wishy-washy. And if you have somebody who's supposedly a leader and they're in a position of power, within Christianity. And they're saying that, and they can't even get out there and stand strong. What do you think that does for other people who just can tell other people in the community and be shot down? Because that's a tough thing to tackle, isn't it?
I think it's in Malachi chapter 2. I don't have my Bible here in front of me. Malachi chapter 2. The lips of the priest should preserve knowledge, and they don't. And God condemns the priests of Israel in that chapter. When you look at the Matthew 28, when Christ says, "Go forward and preach the gospel," and teaching them to observe all I've said to you. That Greek word for observe means to preserve. So here in Malachi, saying the lips should preserve knowledge, and in Matthew 28, you should preserve. Part of what you're doing as Christians is you're preserving. You're making sure somebody doesn't pervert because you're going to preserve. And the people in the pulpit who are perverting God's word to their own gain. I think Mr. T said it best. I pity the fool.
Pity the fool.
Pity the fool.
I feel like to some degree we're seeing parallels politically speaking, because for a lot of years you called them rhinos. I think that rhino is not a good word for them, because I think majestic, right?
Yeah. The acronym fits, but the word picture doesn't.
Right.
Sorry,
but you got guys like Mitt Romney, let's say, or John McCain, and these are people who were always seemed to be concerned about what people thought who would not be voting for them, right?
Yeah.
They seem to always cater their positions to people who would not be voting for them, and it really irritated a lot of people who did vote for them and who supported them and said, hey, you're ignoring us because of all these people who aren't voting for you. And I'm not saying that it's an exact comparison, but what it seems is that you have these pastors who are led astray and they've lost focus of the mission by trying to be as popular with as many people as possible. And as a result, they're getting away from the true goal. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say, but it's our fault. And I'll tell you why. Go back to the example of where I said the leadership in the Republican Party in the establishment is very much like the pastors in the pulpit. What happened was we mistook being a nice guy for being the right guy.
Gotcha.
And so people want to criticize Trump for his tweets and his infidelities. And I'm not going to defend any of that. But I do say that I say this to people in the church who found fault with Trump. The one thing Trump did that no politician did on the right side before him was he kept his word, and he was a fighter. He fought to reestablish justice in the gate like we're supposed to. That man did more for the unborn in one presidency than the 5 past Republican presidents before him that were all talk and no action. Okay, True. He literally did. Now, what he was, though, was he was mean. And I say to people inside the church, look, if you don't like his meanness, it's up to you to do something about it. What we need to do is we need to create people with the backbone of Trump, with the personality of Mitt Romney. Go to it, church.
Yeah, good luck.
That is literally your bailiwick. And if you can't do that, then shame on you, because there was a time when the churches instituted a sense of learning and purpose in people that said, when you grow up, you're going to have a ministry in whatever work field you're in. And therefore, let's prepare people to be judges. Let's prepare them to be politicians. Let's prepare them to be whatever magistrates. And let's prepare them to represent the Judeo-Christian values that they were raised with in the Bible. And what happened was we substituted character for charisma.
Don't you think the Trump presidency was a product of people getting sick and tired of the Mitt Romney types?
Absolutely.
Like being ignored.
Absolutely.
And trying to get as many people as possible while losing sight of the goal.
Absolutely. And one of the things that was interesting is, I don't know if you ever thought about this before, but what you build your brand on is also your Achilles heel. For instance, when Al Gore was out promoting living a green lifestyle, but he's got enough lights on in his house that you can see it from the moon, suddenly that destroyed his credibility. Okay, so the very thing he built his brand on was the thing that brought him down. Newt Gingrich, who was around at the same time frame, he could have 3 houses that you could see from the moon, and nobody would have taken him down for that, because that's not what he built his reputation on.
Right.
What brought Newt down was when he wanted to divorce his wife, who was going through cancer treatments, and he's promoting himself as a family guy.
Right.
So now how does that apply today with Trump and those guys? Well, you got a guy that smiles a lot, he has a lot of charisma, and he gets nothing done, and he wants to talk about values. Well, he's the guy that's going to be so susceptible to the accusations of his character. You got a guy like Trump who never ever built his reputation on his character or charisma.
Right.
He built it on getting things done. Why do you think they went after him to try and stop the wall? You have a real estate developer who was going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it.
Yeah.
The Dems knew that was what they had to do to bring his reputation down, because what he built his brand on was where his Achilles heels was.
Sure. If
So
we can stop this, then we can really take him
So
down.
if we could find somebody that has the charisma and character and competence to do the job that will satisfy everybody in the church, I'll vote for that guy too. But the church better get busy.
Because Lord knows they weren't taking him down based on character flaws, right? It's like, yeah, he slept at this adult film star. Everybody's like, so what? We knew that already.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the point.
Nothing was surprising on that front.
That's right. But you know what? If he had failed to keep his word in building the wall and other accomplishments,
right,
we would have burned him to the ground ourselves, because we would have said he's just another blowhard. Right?
Right.
He's just talk.
Oh, he's all talk. Absolutely. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So how long have you been with the Freedom Station here?
It's funny. I'm the new kid on the block.
Before you got in the room?
yeah. I've only been here a little over 2.5 months. I was introduced through a mutual friend, Christine Gordon. So thank you, Christine, if you're watching. Christine introduced me to Susan. Christine's been a huge supporter of our ministry and helps us make a lot of connections. And I thought I was going to have to really sell Susan on the concept of our show. And she got so excited, and she looked at me, and I say this, man, it gets me a little choked up. I never got to meet Al, and I wish I would have met Al, because she looked at me that night at that dinner, and she said, I wish my husband could have lived to see this day, because this was the content we really want to build around. And not that the other content isn't good, but she just said, my husband would love to have seen your show.
Right.
You know, and it was very moving to know that, and I really wish I would have had a chance to meet Al.
Yeah, that's great. He was a great guy. Yeah, he would have said, it's nothing like that Mike G in the Morning smut. Like that garbage. We got to do something about that guy.
Actually, come to think of it, those were words that Susan
That's exactly.
Finally got some real content.
Al was just an incredible guy, and having not met him, I'm sure you understand a lot about what he was about just by his legacy, and how much other people have to say about him.
He was a fighter. I love the fact that I heard the story about how he was a visionary 9 years ago and concerned about where the country was going. And what he did is the words that we use for our show and our ministry. He put his faith in motion. He had kinetic faith. He didn't just talk. He did something about it. They sold their business. They started the radio station, and they said, we are going to use this for the kingdom of God to build a platform of communication to get the word out that needs to get out. That is what we're talking about. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your feet in motion. Get dirt under your fingernails. Put the shoe leather to the pavement. That's what God calls us on. God doesn't care what you know. Let me say that again. God does not care a bit about what you know. He cares about what you do with what you know. There's not going to be a quiz in heaven that says, oh, this is what your works and judgment is going to be based on. What did you do with what you know is all he cares about.
Absolutely. I don't think Al was all too concerned with, what if nobody likes us? And what if people get offended by what we say? Right? I don't think that crossed Al's mind.
My biggest fear in life is being introduced by somebody I respect to someone else as a nice guy. I never, ever want to be introduced as a nice guy. I want to be introduced as a dangerous guy. I want to be introduced as an effective guy. I want to be introduced as a guy that gets things done and makes a difference. And if I can do that with offending as little people as possible, I will try that. But the moment you,
I was going to say, for those of us just tuning in, we're joined by a very nice guy, Rip Cohen. A dangerous guy.
That's right.
He's the king of sting, the master of disaster.
The moment you evaluate what you did right or wrong and whether it offended somebody else, is you've just determined their standard is the moral standard.
Right.
Okay, right.
How many people did Christ offend?
Lots.
It's probably easier to count the number of people Christ didn't offend.
Lots.
Right?
Do you think if people really got into the Gospels, they would be surprised by the tone, let's say, of some of the things Christ said to people when he's criticizing them?
Christ picked fights. If you go read the Gospels, he couldn't leave well enough alone. Today, people would say, just leave it alone.
Chill out.
No. It's like he went and got out of the boat and went and talked to Pharisees. They were minding their own business, and he went like, go look at the scriptures through that lens. Christ would not leave well enough alone. Christ lived a life of interposition, and I argue that Christ is the ultimate apologist too that we should follow, because wherever Christ went, there when he spoke, there were always three crowds present. There were the followers of Christ, the disciples. Those were the ones that he was saying, hold my beer and watch this. there was the inquisitors, the people that were following and genuinely looking for answers. And then there were the detractors. There were the Pharisees.
Yeah.
And you know what Jesus did? I mean, it's kind of funny. I say it tongue in cheek, but you know that rule in prison, the first day in prison, what do you do?
You start a fight with the
you
biggest
walk up
guy.
to the biggest guy and you sock him in the mouth. What Christ did was he made a beeline for the Pharisees. He was saying to his disciples, watch this and learn.
Yeah.
He was saying to the inquisitors, watch who you should be listening to.
Right.
And he took them down. Mm-hmm. And he did it on purpose, because that's the ultimate apologist. If you think, what's the equivalent today? We should be on offense against the secular left. We're so busy worrying about getting doxxed and whether or not we're going to hurt somebody's feelings. We are so heavenly minded, we are no earthly good.
Sure.
And so we got to change our mindset in our skill set and our tool set to be useful for the kingdom of God. And that starts by emulating what Christ did.
But they've done a good job at somewhat brainwashing people in society to say that if you do have any of these confrontations, if you do call somebody out and have so much as a disagreement, then you're a hateful person. I thought you were a Christian. Christians are all about love. They love everybody, right? All right. God is love, and you're not being very Christian right now by doing this.
Well, you know what? I encourage people to listen to the show weekdays 11 to 12. We're going to answer that question every single day.
Okay.
Because you know the ultimate way you love somebody is you interpose on them like Jesus Christ did. They did not murder Jesus Christ because he was a nice guy. They did not murder him because he didn't offend people. They did not murder him because he didn't cheat on his taxes. Our cornerstone verse is Hebrews 12:4. It says, in Hebrews 11, there's the champions of faith that were martyred for their faith. We always like to hold them in high esteem, but do we really understand what they did and what they accomplished? In first 3 verses of Hebrews 12, it says basically, let's go run our race and let's remember the latest example of interposition, which was Jesus Christ. And then and let this be a reminder to you so that you do not grow weary. And then in verse 4, it says, because you have not even begun to shed blood in your striving against sin. Now think about that verse for a moment. What's the kinds of sins that our pastors teach us not to? What are the sins that our pastors teach us to strive against today? Define how you strive against sin in the church today. Don't lie. Don't steal.
Don't murder.
Don't commit adultery. Don't offend. But if I abstain from any of those sins enough, which ones would cause me to shed blood? Like the very question's absurd, because it's a juxtaposition. It's like what do you mean? This verse says, you have not yet begun to shed blood in your striving against sin. There is a striving against sin that when you do it puts you at personal risk. That's the striving against sin that the prophets did. That's the striving against sin that Christ did. They shed their blood because they were striving against sin. What were they striving against? They were striving against the sin of their society. They were striving against the corruption. Christ confronted the corrupt powers. He took down the tyranny. He did all the things that we're advocating for, and I'm saying the church needs to get off the bench and do it because we own what's happening today. I know, I'm sorry, taking so much time.
No. If your eye causes you sin, pluck it out. That'll cause some bloodshed, right? Is there blood behind the eyes, really, Chris?
Right.
A little bit back there.
Would that cause bleeding?
We don't do no plucking here.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that resonated with me that you said earlier was nobody's coming to save us, so it's really on us to take action. So.
We have a video. If you go to our YouTube page, we call it the 3 triggers. And it basically says, at some point you're going to decide to get involved. And the first trigger is you get involved just because it's the right thing to do. The second trigger is you get involved because it starts to affect your friends and family and people you know. And the third trigger is that you get involved because it affects you directly.
Right.
There's no nobility in survival. There's no, and by the way, in almost every circumstance in history, if you wait to get involved till it affects you directly, God doesn't let you recover from it.
Yeah.
And remember the story of the parable of the Good Samaritan? Did the Good Samaritan even know the Jew that he helped?
I don't believe
it wasn't
so.
even
Right.
family and friends. The point Christ is trying to make is that loving your neighbor is actually getting involved.
I thought it was a trick question. He's going to be like, yes, they did, as a matter of fact. They played bingo together.
Christ taught us to get involved. He said get involved at the first trigger when it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to keep your society.
I think not enough people are doing that.
Amen.
We're getting there.
So listen, guys, I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
wait. No, I gotta do it.
Okay.
Stick around for a
Stick
little
around.
while. Stick
Yeah,
around for a
yeah,
little while.
I'm happy
I got a few more questions. Do you think that there are some people out there who legitimately go too far and are legitimately rude in their efforts to witness, let's say?
Well, let me put it this way. I think. Am I still on there? Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, let me put it this way. Yes, they do, but they're not holding themselves accountable to a standard. Remember, going back to my consulting. One of the things I would always do with a client was one of the first things I would do is I'd argue, define success. How will you know you achieve it? And are you willing to hold yourself accountable to it? So if I know that success in this case is leading this person to Christ, and I'm willing to hold myself accountable to that, how much do you think I'm going to want to push them away? I'm going to do everything I can to push the edge of the envelope to get them to think and to contemplate their destiny and to think about the sin in their life. But I'm desperately going to work as hard as I can not to push them away because I'm holding myself accountable to a result.
Right. You're maintaining the truth at the same time, which is important because a lot of people just throw that out the window for the sake of winning them over, right?
And a lot of people aren't even holding themselves accountable to winning them over. They say, my job is to just tell you about Jesus. Your job is to react to it. I have no accountability for whether you accept him or not. And because I don't hold myself accountable for that, I can say whatever I want and I can push you away and I can blame you for it. If we were to hold ourselves accountable more for results and real results of leading people to the real Christ that's going to judge them in the next life, we would work twice as hard as we are right now because we can't just lob a grenade over the wall and say we've done our job, and nor can we walk away and say we've done our job. We need to hold ourselves accountable to results.
That's an interesting way to put it, because the way I'm imagining it in my head is, let's say Philly Chris has got this disease that he doesn't know about.
Because he lives in Philly.
Yeah, right? Hypothetically speaking, of course, right? Hypothetically speaking. You get hand sanitizer by the hand sanitizer. Now, let's say Philly Chris has got this disease he doesn't know he's got, and I know about it, and I've also got the cure. If I just toss a pill at him or give him some pills without any explanation whatsoever, and he's got no knowledge that he's even sick, that's not going to do him very good, is it?
It's the perfect example. We all have a form of cancer, heart cancer. Being born with a sin nature and separated from God, we are born with a heart cancer, and every single Christian has the cure to heart cancer. If you withhold that cure, how can you stand before God?
Right.
And if you try to impose that cure without the patient's informed consent, how can you stand before God?
Right.
We are there to be the physician like Christ was. Another point, when people say we're supposed to be like Jesus, what does that mean? Like, let me ask you a question. Are we supposed to rise from the dead? Are we supposed to raise other people from the dead?
Live
Are we
without
supposed to walk
sin,
around healing people?
completely
Are we
sinless.
supposed to be multiplying fish and loaves? Are we supposed to be, on and on? The only
And
way we can
walk
really...
on water on the weekend.
Right. The only way we can really emulate Christ is in our behaviors.
Right.
And so when we go back to your example, Christ wants us to be salt and light, and he wants us to emulate the way he confronted people. He wants us to emulate. People say all the time, "Well, yeah, but Philly Chris, he was the Son of God. We can't do that." No, that's false teaching. The only thing we can do is emulate the behaviors of Christ. So we need to study those behaviors and understand that people hung on his every word, and they didn't just hang on his word because he healed people. That when you look at the Sermon on the Mount, people followed him, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we've never heard this kind of stuff before." People need to see us as the salt at the table that's necessary.
So you talk about having cancer of the heart, and you have to tell somebody that they've got that, right? And in this context, people don't want to hear that they've got it, and they'll get angry at you for telling them,
But
right?
there's always symptoms.
You would think that if somebody had a terrible disease like cancer and you're giving them a heads up about it, that they would say, "Thank you for saving me. Thank you. I maybe I could do something about this heart cancer."
Well, yeah,
right?
and the best way to
Most
show
people
them?
react by saying, "No, I don't have heart cancer. Who do you think you are to tell me I've got heart cancer?"
And they're going to deny it. But here's
Right?
the great thing. The way you can show them the heart cancer is to show them the contrast of a healthy heart. And so when they want to deny, think about the consequences of sin. It's prevalent in today's society. Evil's everywhere. We have tons of evidence to talk about the heart cancer and the way people don't fear God and they are more afraid of man, and the corruption just continues. Right? We have total evidence, a complete evidence of all the corruption and the heart cancer. Can we show them a contrast in us? I'm not just talking about the way we're nice guys.
Right.
I'm talking about can they
Not
see
nice, not nice guys. We are not nice guys.
Can they see a difference?
Not nice.
Can they see a difference in our marriages? Can they see a difference in our children? Can they see a difference in our priorities? Can they see a difference that makes them hunger and thirst and look at this. And I'm not being pie in the sky and thinking they're all going to be jumping on board. They're going to fight us. But just like Christ confronted his own disciples with tough love, and did Christ ever say anything that wasn't in love? Because we're supposed to take truth and love.
Right.
We need to start using Christ's definition of truth and love. And that means you tell people hard. There was a saying when you and I were kids, the truth hurts. When's the last time you ever heard anybody say that?
Sure.
The truth does hurt, but it hurts in a good way because it causes you to confront. That's what real salt and light does. And so even when they come at us with that hate and then denial, we have so much we can respond with to show them the heart cancer in them.
Absolutely. Well, this is definitely good stuff. We'll have to have you back on the program sometime if you will join us.
Yeah, we'd love to. We'd love to.
Thank you so much. Check them out. Kinetic Faith, 11 a.m. on weekdays.
11 to 12. We're a live show and we do call-ins, so we encourage callers to call in.
Call on in.
Right.
Have you heard from Mac from Broomall lately?
I have not.
Mac
And by
from
the way,
Broomall was a regular caller into our program for a while there.
and unlike the left that claims to love diversity, we love the one diversity that counts the most, diversity of thought. So even if you, and especially if you disagree with me, I'd love to hear from you.
That would, well, looking forward to it. Check it out. Rick Crump, thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us.
guys. Appreciate
All
you.
right.
All right. Thank
God
you
bless.
so much.
All right,
you.
take care.
Why don't you go out there, when you go out there, just tell the next victim to come on in. Just say, whoever's the next victim, you're up. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the morning with The Law Matters.
Great. Thank you.
Only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. What do you got going on over there? Russ, you got some sound effects going?
Russ, the producer.
No, that was Chris's mic.
Oh, sorry. I was moving the mic.
oh.
It keeps falling
Yeah,
down.
he's making sound effects, that's
Yeah.
all. I don't have the comments up over here.
We had a lot of
Yeah.
comments.
We had a lot of comments.
Yeah, some good comments. That was a good segment there.
That's
yeah.
why a couple times Russ was laughing, and I wanted to make sure it was because of the comments. It was not because he was laughing at the
Oh,
content.
yeah, he's like, that Rick guy, he's a funny guy. Funny like how? Like a clown? I make you laugh?
Yeah, he makes me
Oh,
laugh.
I
Yeah.
saved
Nice guy like how?
I actually saved one of CB's comments because that was exactly what made me laugh. He said, "I feel like I am sitting down with a few wise guys from Little Italy."
Rita says it is a great show. I like this guy. Very interesting. Rusty, going up. Trump was and is a fighter. Who's got that with the knuckles?
What are you doing?
Philly Chris is watching the show
watching
on the show.
Hold on a minute.
He's watching
take
the
a break
show
and watch
on the
the
show.
I
Just wanna see
I don't
how
have
we
the
did
whole
there.
history.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
have
that was
the whole
good.
history because my computer just decided to.
Gotcha. All right. So we got CB with a smiling, laughing emoji sort of looking thing. Trump was
Yeah,
and
he was
isn't
good.
fighter.
Definitely need to have him back on. We were having a really good conversation too before you got here earlier, Mike. About he does some data research, and we were talking about like the VAERS database. We probably didn't want to get into that today, but he might be a good person to have back on because he was
Certainly.
Talking to us.
I
about some
love when
interesting
you
things
tell
there.
me about the conversations off the air,
Right.
on the air. It's like, and people who don't do this very often, they'll always reference the conversation off the
That's
air.
right.
Like we were just talking about. It's like, yeah, but the 100,000 people who are listening to us right now, we're not there. So you're going to have to repeat it for all of them. I know what you're saying.
Somebody's coming in.
They do not know.
Yeah.
We've got
For
another
next time,
guest.
for next time.
We got another guest coming on in.
Hello, how you doing?
Why don't you sit on down? Sit on down. Grab him some
There you go.
headphones over here.
Some
Have a
headphones
seat.
for you, buddy.
Have a
Sit
seat.
right
Have a
there.
seat right next to Philly Chris.
There you go. Welcome to the program.
Welcome to the program.
Welcome to the program.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is William Bulita.
William, all right. We're going to have you turn that mic around just so that not perfect. Yeah, just right in there.
Yep.
All right. What's your name again?
William Bulita.
Okay, and where are you from?
So I live in the Chester County area.
Love it.
Yeah.
We're neighbors just about. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So how old are you?
So I'm 14.
Okay, that puts you in high school?
Yep.
We're Downingtown?
Homeschool. So.
Okay, very good. You're not being brainwashed then,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So what are you learning about these days?
Not much. I'm learning a little Greek. I'm also learning biology. But yeah, other than that, it's going pretty good.
Whose decision was it for you to learn Greek?
Well, my parents, obviously. But
Yeah.
I think.
Well, did you have any input in that?
Yeah.
Did you petition the school board? The parents, right?
not yet.
He shows up at meetings and says, hey, there's going to be a change around here.
I do that though.
You do?
So,
Well, that's good that you have some input in your education. And so how long have you been homeschooled for?
So I've been homeschooled since 2nd grade, and I was like one of those kids who was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be able to see my friends. Well, you know, after a while, I learned, oh yeah, well, not being able to see your friends isn't always the worst thing.
Oh yeah. Well, there are a lot of problems in schools these days, aren't there? A lot of people, particularly with social media, right? Is social media something that you're involved in?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
I'm not necessarily like involved in like social media, but I do make videos on my YouTube channel. But
Very cool. What's the YouTube channel
what's your
so we can
channel?
get you some
Share
more
that,
views
yeah.
right
oh,
now?
no, it's fine.
So go
Jed,
ahead,
listen,
go.
we got a lot of listeners who would
Yeah.
probably love to check it out.
No, it's nothing they'd want to listen to. But
I highly doubt
we
that.
might
Well,
wanna check
how
it
about
out.
this? So we'll start off with this. What kind of content is it? What kind of videos are you putting out there?
it's just gaming stuff. But
Gaming stuff.
Yeah,
Hey,
I do it with my friends. I put it together, and
Russ is a
we
good
Russ is
friend.
your
we
best
got a
friend?
gamer right
Russ the
over
producer,
here.
Russ the
Russ the
producer.
producer.
He won't shut up about video games. This guy. I think we've got plenty of people listening to our program who would be interested in video games. I think that our demographic, our audience, is a little bit different than the rest of the Freedom Station audience. So, what kind of videos are you putting out there? Are they like tutorials telling people, "Hey, here's how you beat this video game," that sort of thing?
no, it's just short clips of stuff. But
So you see you
Yeah.
playing the video game on there?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
What's your favorite game?
probably Rocket League.
Oh yeah, my son plays that. That's
What
my
is
game,
it?
Rocket League.
Rocket League.
It's like a soccer ball with the cars and all that. Yeah, I played it a little.
A soccer ball
Yeah.
with cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
That's kinda
cool.
what
You
it
know
is,
about
right?
it? Russ knows about it too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
With a Rocket League soccer ball with cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so they see you playing. Is it one of those types of things where you've got the headset on and you're talking through it as well? Or is there any commentary, or it's just the video
It's
game,
called
just
a
the clip?
camera.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's is that multiplayer? I don't know.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
multiplayer.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so you're competing against. When I was a kid, and I'm a very old man, you got to understand that. But when I was a
know.
kid,
He's older than me.
my dad would, yeah. I'm not that old. He still owes Jesus $3.
That's right. We go way back.
And so when I was a kid, my dad would always tell me, get out there and throw a ball. You're never going to make any money playing video games. Well, it turns out there are lots of people making lots of money playing video games these days. Isn't that true?
That is true.
And
yeah.
people who do this professionally. Do you have any aspirations of playing video games professionally?
Not necessarily. My aspiration is more just to do talk radio. But
Really?
All right. Well, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
What would you like to talk about on your show?
Mike, this is when we announce that you're being replaced.
yeah,
You're
Well, ladies and
fired.
Mike,
gentlemen, the
you're
new host
fired.
of Mike G in the morning.
yeah. But so my YouTube channel is just kind of a hobby. But my main focus is a talk radio show. Currently, I help out at a podcast at my church, and we're working currently on finalizing our studio. But beside that, the
You need a
podca-
producer. We're trying to get rid of one. No, just kidding.
No, so
Russ is going to be looking for work very shortly.
yeah, but Russell is gonna get fired soon.
We are
No,
a
we
bad
love- we love
influence.
Russ. We love
We are a bad influence. So, what are some of your favorite shows that you listen to? What got you into talk radio? I know when I was a kid, and you're not going to know these guys, but
Yeah.
they had, when I was back in New York, you had guys like Bob Grant. Bob Grant was the big guy. And then you had Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
Rush Limbaugh was in the afternoon, but Bob Grant was really sort of the headliner back then. Hannity was just coming up on the radio, Curtis Sliwa, guys like that. And when I was your age and even younger, I'd listen to these guys on talk radio nonstop, and that's what really got me interested. Who are some of the folks that you've been listening to?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna tell a little personal story.
Sure.
So when I was younger, I would stay up. I wouldn't stay up, but I would try to go to bed. And as any kid would do, they'd be like, "Oh, I can't go to bed," so they just go downstairs, and my parents watch TV. So I was like, can I watch TV with you, or just can I like chill down here with you? And they'd say, yeah. So I would be downstairs. I'd be listening to Fox News. At the time, it was good.
Oh!
But
The truth is coming out.
yeah.
Sick burn.
Yeah. No, you're right though. Things have changed, right?
We're going to call from
Yeah.
affiliation very shortly.
So Glenn Beck was on Fox at the time, and Sean Hannity, and my parents would listen to them, and I loved listening to it. I would listen to it. You know, you're trying to fall asleep, but you hear all these things on the news, and you're like, what is this? So
that's good,
it always fascinated me. So
Most kids your age, they'd fall asleep to it.
Yeah. No, it's true.
and yeah, I never fell asleep.
That's good.
So through the years, every time, like my dad, when he went to lunch, he would listen to Rush Limbaugh.
Uh-huh.
So I would always go to lunch with him, and I had that experience of listening to Rush Limbaugh.
That's good.
So that was another one of my influences, but most of it was Glenn Beck.
Went back.
And it's actually funny. I'm taking a class with his son, but
Really?
well, I haven't actually talked to him, but
Yeah, why not?
well, I mean, it's more of like a thing where
Is
you
that through
just-
the
you just
homeschooling
listen.
somehow?
Yeah.
Is that- okay.
Oh,
It wa-
okay.
It was very weird. It was like I was in the class and then I just see Rafe Beck and I'm like, wait, what?
Ah.
So I find the circumstances I'm in are very interesting.
That's
but-
cool.
But next time you're on there, you say, "Tell your pops I'm coming for his job."
No, actually,
There's a new sheriff in town around here.
That's right.
so I was interviewing at the what was it, Russell? What was I doing interviews at?
PLC.
Yeah, at the PLC I was doing interviews, and
What does that stand for?
Pennsylvania
yeah.
Leadership Conference.
The Leadership Conference.
Yep. So I was doing interviews, and I had some people on from the where was it?
The White House.
No,
No.
I think
We had a few people on who were running for
The,
office.
the National Scuba Diving
Sean
Association.
Purcell
Yeah.
stands out.
Did you video this? Is it like on YouTube?
Yeah, they're
or
up
anything, or-
online.
Oh yeah, where can folks find that?
Go to our website 1180wfyl.com. Scroll
okay,
down, hit
okay.
the. I don't know what their logo is, but it says Paux on it.
Okay.
Yep.
You click that, and there's like I don't know what 6 or 7 videos, and Will's a star.
Very,
All right,
very
well,
cool. Very cool, Will. And what were the interviews about?
So we just talk about who they are, what they do at X organization that they work at, and what got them into working there. So you got all these you got these stories that were very unique and some stories that were very coincidental. Like I
Sure.
was in college and then all of a sudden I get this like job recommendation at like this place, and I end up being mentored by someone who works here, and I end up looking for a job and thinking about that place and going back to them. And it's just very interesting to hear their story because they come from a very like low point and then they grow
Sure.
because of that, like the mentor that they had. So-
Right place at the right time sort of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very cool.
What do you want to do when you get older? In addition.
He
to
just
the
said
radio.
talk
well, in addition,
radio
In
host.
addition to that, like,
Yeah.
is there something?
Hopefully that's
career-wise,
it.
Or you want to do the
got a
the
backup
radio
plan?
thing? Like,
Hopefully that you
Not a
don't make
backup
you
plan,
don't
but-
make
yeah,
backup
yeah,
plans.
yeah.
Plan A is plan A.
Yeah.
That's it.
But if there is a backup plan, the backup plan would be just to we're podcasting, but
Okay.
engineer for that, but
All right.
Very cool.
take Russell's job.
Yeah,
There you go.
Leave your resume before you go.
Hey, he's taking everybody's jobs, this guy. He's taking everybody's jobs. Watch out. Watch out. So, when you think about all the things that you watched through conservative media, whether it's the guys over on Fox News or other radio programs that you're listening to, does it make you happy that you're homeschooled and you're not sitting in this environment every day where you're being brainwashed from people in the education system who are typically leftists that they tell a lot of lies in school?
Yeah. Well, I am definitely glad I'm not in that, but at the same time, I feel bad for the people that are in there. Like especially some of my friends. It's just I asked them like, "Oh, what were some of the classes you had?" And my next door neighbor, he goes to I think Downingtown East, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like they had a class about depression," and I'm like,
About depression.
yeah. I'm like, not the depression, but depression, just in general. And I'm like, well, that's odd.
Yeah.
It's like, shouldn't that be in like a psychology school or something? But it just, it strikes me very weird that they're being taught some of this stuff that they really shouldn't be exposed to at this point. Cause
Sure.
it's just, yeah.
So where going to attend college in your ventures, or are you just going to go straight out of high school like some of these baseball stars?
No, I'm probably
Number
gonna,
one in the conservative talk radio draft this year.
15-year-old.
Yeah, I honestly, it'll come. We'll see what happens in the next couple months, but yeah.
Where would you think of attending college? Is there any place in mind?
There's a lot of places that come to mind. There's Liberty University.
Okay.
And then there's Hillsdale and all these really good universities. But yeah,
Have you considered Oklahoma Baptist University?
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
No, I haven't.
very fine university. Fine uni. They put out some real degenerates, unfortunately. Every once in a while, somebody slips through the cracks and ends up going through there.
Apparently, it's a path to radio, though.
It is a path to radio. That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, would you be willing to come back on our program sometime soon?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That would be great. We'll keep in touch with you. We'll get you back on the air. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
I mean, it's kind of a weird name, but
Go ahead.
Yeah, throw it out.
We got nothing but time. And
it's Repu, R-E-P-U, and then you have to put it on the channel filter. But yeah.
very good. REPU, you said? Put it on the channel filter. Check out his video game skills. Highly entertaining. Excellent young man. Bright future ahead of him. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Are you coming on next? You joining on the program? That would be great. That would be great. We've got our next victim.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Good deal.
And this one seems to be best on the side, just so you know.
Yeah, I think that knob has to be facing away from you.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Russ? Yes. So the knob faces away from you.
Is this better?
Yeah, just into the side though instead of into the top. So right in there.
This way?
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
perfect.
Okay.
We hear you loud and clear.
Welcome.
All right, so we didn't have the chance to be formally introduced before you got thrown into the fire over here. What's your name?
My name is Bella Victor.
Ah, Bella, beautiful name. It's beautiful in Italian, right?
That's right.
I always hear that. We call somebody Bella. That's a high compliment in the New York area among the Italian Americans.
It is, but
You Italian?
I'm an Indian.
Oh, okay. Honorary Italian. I had a buddy in high school who was Indian, and his last name was Mundiani.
Okay.
And it used to be something longer. They shortened it when they came to the United States. And he would come to the Italian American club with us, and we would always tell our teacher that he was Italian because his last name ended in a vowel, kind of get pass for an Italian name.
I'm an Italian by virtue of eating pizza, maybe.
There you go.
Welcome to the club. Yeah.
That works too. That works too. So you live in the area?
I live in Cheltenham.
Okay, very cool. And how long have you been in Pennsylvania?
25 plus years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long have you been familiar with the people here over at the Freedom Station?
I think 5 plus.
Okay. And what got you interested in the Freedom Station?
I think the work they do. I think media is a good way to reach like-minded people. And I have a show which is called Minute with a Master.
Minute with a Master.
And for 1 minute, I try to condense some truth from the Bible.
Very cool. Very cool. What gave you the inspiration to do that?
Well, I believe people need to be inspired. And then with a short attention span, sometimes you can fit in more in 1 minute than 30 minutes if people are really listening.
That's
right?
very
So-
true. That's very true. If you have 100% of their attention for that
Exactly.
1 minute.
We should
That's
probably make
right.
our show 1 minute.
1 minute program. That's all the time we've got for today.
I think she's onto something.
So how long have you been doing that, Bella?
I think five years. I
Oh,
think
you've been
close to
doing it for
yeah.
5 years. Wow.
Yes, right.
That's incredible.
So I'm very grateful to, Al is not here, but Al and Susan for giving their time and life for a ministry where they can reach people, influence people, right?
Sure.
And inspire people.
Sure. And
It's a very commendable thing.
it's a very brave thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. I think Al was a pioneer
Definitely.
in having done what he did. When people want to retire, they want to have a relaxed life, but he did something which is brought us all together like this, right?
Right.
And also
Thank you, Al.
connecting.
And it's anything but relaxing this day and age, right?
Right.
If you're going out there and you're putting out these kinds of thoughts and ideas, it is not something that's going to be taken kindly by a lot of people out there, right? And they're not going to be shy about criticizing you, are they?
Definitely, that's a good point.
To draw some blood, like we
You
said.
got to be willing to face the consequences of what you believe in. Right?
Yeah. Do you think that it's gotten? You said you've been in Pennsylvania roughly 25 years. Have you seen society and the community getting worse in terms of things of that nature? As far as when you go out there and you profess your beliefs, whether it be from perspective of Christianity or politically, that you're more likely to be violently criticized, so to speak?
I think like attracts like. So there is a good and a bad side in each one of us. And which side that you gravitate or connect with, you elicit that kind of response. I would not say human beings have really changed. I mean, I know we are in the last days, but the Bible says it as it was in the days of Noah, it shall be, right? In that way, all of us have a nature which gravitate towards evil. But I think when you have a hope, when you put your trust and faith in Jesus, that brings dignity to mankind, right? So it is possible to. I know in many friends there are changes that is happening, but there is also hope when there is evil. People want goodness to be seen.
Sure,
Right?
that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe if somebody's just a little bit sick, then they don't realize how much danger their body is in. They start to get really sick and it's like, hey, maybe we ought to do something about this, right?
No, that's a good analogy, right?
Maybe I should see a doctor. Maybe it's about that time. It's tough to get an old Italian guy to see a doctor, right?
This is true.
Yeah,
This is
terrified
true. That's
terrified
true.
of doctors. So where'd you live before Pennsylvania?
I was in Ohio for a short time, but
Okay.
before that I was in India.
How did you go from India to Ohio? That would seem like you took the globe and you spun it around. You're like, I'm moving there. That's where I'm going. Ohio.
My husband was here to do his master's
Okay.
at Wright State University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how long were you out there? You said it was just a brief
I
period?
was there for a very short time. I think he was there for 2 years. We got married. I was there for about 6 months. Then we moved to Philly. He got a job here. So
Okay. And what were your first thoughts of the States coming on over? It wasn't, I got to go home because you're still around, right?
right. Culturally, it's like night and day.
Really?
You know, you bump into people almost wherever you go. And it was actually the fall season when I came. So I always say even the birds don't say hello to you. So it's so it was. But the contrast, actually, I was talking to somebody, even between Ohio and Pennsylvania, people are very friendly there. Here you got to get used to somebody being rough with you, right?
Right.
City of brotherly love.
Right.
Not so much.
And that's not even New York.
Yeah.
I mean, New York's even a step
Exactly.
a step further like that.
But now then I have to compare that with coming from India. So now I kind of gotten used to this culture. So
Wow.
So-
So it was more friendly in India? Is that what you're saying? People
It
were more
is, yeah.
outgoing? Really? And what was it like politically over there as far as freedoms go, things of that nature?
I think just like here, every government that comes brings about a lot of changes. So it's more based on religion, whereas here is more of your political, the viewpoint, the ideology that differentiates people.
Religion in what manner?
There is Hinduism, there's Christians, there's Muslims. So
And a lot of different people, a lot of different points of view, I guess.
yeah, you can be.
Is there one that's predominant?
It's mostly Hindu, right?
No, it is Hinduism,
Hinduism,
right?
yeah.
Right.
The temples are beautiful. I've never been there. But it looks beautiful there.
And what was that like being Christian over there?
I think when you begin to see that you are a source of hope and light, you have a greater appreciation of actually yourself because you know you're a carrier of truth. And you have an ability to influence people. And when you see, I think when people see the difference in what you believe, they do gravitate towards you. So
Were your parents Christian?
yes, yeah.
Is there something that you grew up around?
It was, but till I had to make a personal commitment around 13 when I said, Lord Jesus, come into my heart. So I had to make a definitive decision.
Right. They can't do that for you, right? They can
Exactly.
introduce you. You can lead a horse to water, as they say.
Very true, very true.
Are there any sayings that you just found ridiculous when you came over here? I gotta say that when you lead a horse to water, right? I always think you come over from a different culture. It's a lot of
That's
stuff
one
must
of my
sound like.
favorite, the one that you quoted. So.
Oh, really?
Because I do believe there's a matter of will, right?
Right.
So you cannot force somebody to do that.
Right. You can tell them what's good for them, but
exactly.
it's up to them
Yes.
at the end,
Yes.
right?
Here's the water.
So, what do you see yourself doing moving forward? You going to continue with this program for as long as you possibly can? Because it seems like society's ready for this kind of thing, especially this age of TikTok, right? You were basically doing TikTok before it was cool, right?
Hey, look at that.
All right, think about it. If you're doing things in 1 minute today, that's like all the rage. I think that's what the kids are saying. Right, Liberty?
All
The
the
kids are
rage.
saying
All the
all the
rage,
rage.
yeah.
Is that the saying, the phrase that they're using? So you're way ahead of your time, really.
Right. So,
Do you do
There's
any of the
another one.
Social media? Do you do any of that?
yeah, I was trying to make a video out of the 1 minute. So
Okay.
I just need some more people to come on board to help me do that. I'm not very technically savvy, but
Put it on the TikTok,
That's why we
right?
have Right.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
can
we
see
have
her on TikTok.
Put it on TikTok and then put it on YouTube has the shorts, right?
Yeah,
YouTube Shorts.
YouTube has the shorts. It's everything now. It's on every single platform, and
Yeah.
I can totally see you on TikTok because I'm on Christian TikTok because I have it to do
Christian
research
TikTok?
for the show. But I always am on Christian TikTok, and they have a lot of that type of thing. I think they would really love it.
That's
so
good.
I
That's why
encourage that.
use their platforms to spread knowledge. Yeah.
there's another one actually parallelly started. It's called At Home with Bella.
At
Where-
home with Bella.
Yeah. I homeschool 5 of my kids.
I've heard
wow.
of this.
So I would bring a few nuggets of truth on how to raise kids, what are the different personality styles and love languages. So,
What's the biggest challenge in raising children?
wow, I think not seeing where we can be wrong.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. That is
Definitely.
not what I expected.
Wait, I'm a parent. We're not wrong. Right?
There you go.
Why do I have to do that, Dad? Because I said so.
I mean, there are probably 100 things that I would have guessed about that. They won't eat their vegetables, right? Lots of other things.
I think we get transformed
Yeah.
before we try to transform them.
And so it's a learning experience being a
Definitely.
parent.
And you can, just when you've thought you conquered with one child, the other one is totally different.
So you've got multiple children?
I have 5 kids, 4 girls and 1 boy.
God bless you. God bless you. And you homeschool all of them?
That's right.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's why she only has 1 minute shows.
That's right. All the other time is spoken for, right?
Right. I can't
You're
imagine.
outsmarting me. No, I have a YouTube channel called Bella Victor Ministries.
Oh,
I do
okay.
little longer shows than, longer talks than 1 minute.
good, all
So.
Bella Victor Ministries?
Ministries.
And
yeah.
Bella at home? And
At
then
home with Bella.
At home with Bella?
How
Then
do you
that's-
spell the YouTube one? Bella?
Bella Victor, VICTOR.
Okay, Victor, okay,
Yeah,
good.
Ministries.
Check
Ministries.
it out, Bella Victor.
Check it out.
YouTube.
The name
Check
of
it
the
out.
program is actually Life with Bella.
Life with Bella.
Yeah. but-
Okay. Very cool.
Have to subscribe.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe and share.
Yeah, like, subscribe, share. We got a
And
TikTok star in the
and
making here.
also sow into our ministry.
What's that?
I said partner with us.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very cool to have you over here and have our audience hear about all this stuff and how you came to do what you do and everything. If you wanted our audience to know one thing about you and about some kind of tip that they can use moving forward, any kind of wisdom you can provide them with, what would that be?
In a minute or less.
Yeah, in a minute or less. There you go. All right. Hey, listen.
I like
all the time
I
you
like
need.
all your nuggets.
She's got the home field advantage on this one now, right? She's like, listen, I've been cranking these out for 5 years, Philly,
right,
Chris.
right, yeah.
You think that's a challenge for me?
Yeah, we go for 3 hours, so go as long as you want.
I would say life is hard, and brutal, as I think somebody had said. But I think with knowing Jesus, he brings a hope and an ability to come out of whatever situation that you're in. There's no way a believer can say they're totally locked, like landlocked. You can always come out of it. There is a way of escape in any situation. So, and that's a very powerful truth.
I was just thinking.
Yeah, I think a
Yes.
lot of people needed to hear that right
Yes.
now, right? No
Yeah.
matter where you are, no
Should
matter.
probably end the show right there.
Yeah, that's right. It's not going to get better than that. It's
no.
not going to get better than that.
That's about all the time we have, folks.
Bella Bombs, just dropping truth bombs on everybody. That's your new nickname, okay? Bella Bombs. Hey.
Wow, that's for the next podcast.
The next podcast, Bella Bombs. The TikTok star. That should be your TikTok
Wow.
name, right? Bella
Coming
Bombs.
soon, Bella Bomb.
Wow. I got enlightened here.
This is great because that's really what it is, right? And if it's condensed down, you got these words of wisdom that are very powerful. They're bombs. That's what they are. Good bombs.
Good bombs. Dynamite.
Dynamite.
They call
I
them.
love it.
It's truth bombs. They call them truth bombs.
Bombs.
They call them
bombs,
truth
yeah.
bombs.
Now
There's a
they're
name
gonna
for
call them
this.
Bella Bombs.
And Bella Bombs. That's going to be the new phrase. There's going to be somebody from India and hear somebody say, "Oh, you hear that Bella Bomb?" They're going to be like, "What are they talking about?"
Make way, make way.
I love it. I love it.
I totally enjoyed this time with you all.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You guys are doing a great job.
I
thank
appreciate that.
Other than having fun yourselves, but
We haven't been kicked off the air yet.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah. We'd love to have you back on the program again
yes,
soon.
God
back,
bless you all.
And check her out. God bless
Yeah.
you. Check her out, Bella. Give them the name of the program one time.
Bella Victor Ministries.
Bella Victor Ministries. Check out the 1 minute Bella Bombs,
Bella
right?
Bombs.
The Bella Bombs. Yeah, your TikTok's going to be tremendous.
A good one.
Thanks so much.
Take
For those
care.
of us
Thank you.
just tuning in,
That was
you're listening
wonderful.
to Mike G in the morning with The
listening, yeah.
Law Matters.
Oh,
Only on the Freedom Station,
Excellent. Thank you.
WFYL.
Thanks for coming on.
So, I don't know how we follow up. That is a tough
I don't know.
act.
That was pretty good
One
there.
tough act to
Yeah,
follow,
that's a
right?
tough one. Thank you so much.
I think we've probably got about
some-
30 minutes left in us. What do we got? 8:30?
Yeah,
8:30 on the clock?
something like that.
Yes.
I said we got-
8:28.
All right, I think we got 30 minutes left in us. So, what do we got on the comments? What's cooking in the comments?
Before we had some comments. Sean and CB were following the Rittenhouse, so they were talking about
Oh
that
yeah,
before.
We haven't
Ah.
gotten into that yet. Yeah.
Have not gotten into that at all. I know that we've got a pending motion. I think ultimately what we'll end up doing
Thank you.
is when there is a verdict, maybe we'll pop on with Rich Roberts and do some kind of special edition.
Okay, like over the weekend, if there's
Maybe
one?
over the weekend.
Yeah, and also Rita had a question, but it was for our previous guest. It was
If only we had a producer who could put the comments on the monitor over here.
Well, we can switch, but it's going back and forth. We're more high tech now, but I don't know.
Okay.
It can switch. We can go
Yeah,
to the.
this is behind a lot. I think it disconnected from.
Yeah, I think something's going on that's disconnected. But we had a question for you, and it was, I think it's important from Rita. I think it's important that kids learn about our past history, like World War I and World War II. Are you studying about that? They wanted to know.
Oh, get him back.
I didn't
All
want
right,
to.
come
I didn't
on
want to
back.
put him on the spot.
Come on back, yeah.
When I didn't know he previously had a show, but I didn't want to put him on the spot. But now that we know him, you
See
know,
how we're good at getting the
We're gonna
guys
get the
back though, like that.
questions.
Yeah.
There we go. So, are you learning about history such as World War I and World War II? If so, name the Axis powers. Go.
You weren't serious,
No,
right?
that's it. But the first question was serious. Are you learning about World War I and World War II? That's a question from somebody in the audience. So,
To be honest, I actually learned that when I was in like 4th grade.
really?
So
You've already forgotten that, Mike. You gotta.
I learned that.
He's
all
already.
old.
He said
That's
he's
old
already
news. He's already
forgotten it.
forgotten
He's
it.
forgotten about it already.
So
We're past that.
now I'm learning about. Well, it's kind of more deep dive into like Greek poetry now.
Oh,
But I.
cool.
So it was from 3rd grade to 5th grade was World War I to World War II, and like all the history in between, and after that, leading up to.
Can you
present
lay
time.
down some rhymes?
Yeah, in Greek. In Greek.
Please.
We actually have somebody who's going to be joining us on the program within the next few weeks who is a rapper from Brazil, and his
That's
music
right,
is
that's
in
right.
Portuguese.
Wait, who is he?
Yeah, he's a rapper from Brazil. He's a rap artist from
Well,
Brazil.
you've definitely heard of him.
He's
I'm sure
actually
you've
a
heard of him.
Christian rapper from Brazil.
Yeah,
but
Christian rap.
he lives in Philadelphia, and
Christian
him
rap
and
artist.
his wife
They-
have a ministry and and real rap.
Yeah,
stuff.
music videos, the
Yeah.
whole deal. They're pretty good stuff. But so maybe he can cover the Portuguese rap section, and you can cover the Greek rap
There we go.
section,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that'll work pretty
Come
well.
back
As far as Greek goes, is the intention so that you can read original manuscripts from the Bible?
That is the intention.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just kind of centered toward understanding it.
Sure.
But like, I've already learned Latin, so that's gone. pretty
Wow.
well. But in terms of history is my favorite subject. It was more focused toward just all the history rather than focusing on specific points in history. So I've learned a lot about like different civilizations, different cultures, all that. But there are cultures that I always say this. It's all cultures they're always centered around something, good or bad. They're always centered around something, like a king or, some sort of, religion. But it's always centered around something, and that's how, new cultures start. That's how, cultures fall. So, we might see that in modern history.
Start the new Mike G Society.
No, I was gonna say New Jersey centered around King Philip Murphy,
Right,
right?
there you go,
King
there you go,
Philip
yeah.
Murphy over in New Jersey. He goes by governor, but
Well, I think this is something that our listeners find really interesting, this topic. That's why I kind of wanted to bring you back on while we're waiting for the next guest, too, because it's a hot topic with a lot of our listeners. This is school and,
Right.
school board meetings and everything going
Right.
on and what they're teaching our kids.
are you
my
learning
question
critical
is-
race theory in homeschool?
But,
I am no.
and
Please
a few
tell
of
me
our
no. Please
a
tell
few
me
of our
no.
listeners have gone from public to private, and for purposes.
So-
And I was going to ask, do you think that your education would have been vastly different if you went to public school? And then go ahead and speak about what you're.
Actually, so I said I started homeschooling when I was in 2nd grade. Previous to that, I was in public school, Catholic school, and private school. So I had a taste of everything. So I started out at Collegium, which a lot of people go to. But now there's a lot of, bad stuff happening there. But, they claimed that they could have, a kid, be able to read fluently. And I was in kindergarten at the time, at the end of the year. And in the middle of the year, I hated it. It was literally like, a boot camp. And it wasn't fun at all, and this is kindergarten, so it
They make you do push-ups while you're reading?
yeah. So
No phonics for you. Get down on the
While
floor.
you're doing your coloring book, do one-handed push-ups. It's kindergarten. Give me a break.
yeah, so that was what I thought. I was like, okay, this is kindergarten. This makes no sense. But after all this had happened, like I had that experience. I hated the private school. I went to a public school, and I did not like that. It was just kind of the same stuff, but it wasn't fun at all, and what I was learning just I didn't connect with it. So,
It's weird when you're raised in a Christian household and you attend public school, right? Because it's wildly,
Yeah.
dramatically different. You run into people who believe nothing about what you. It's just it might as well be on a different planet
feel like
in
an
terms of
outcast.
what they believe
Yeah.
and what they believe to be true.
And
Yeah, I
if you
went
feel
from
like
Catholic
an
school to public, yeah.
if you feel like an outcast, do you think that affects you learning because you're more worried about what people think of you or things like that? Or what, more
Well, he's in the
specifically?
first grade and he's sitting there listening to this person who went to college and saying this person is full of baloney and they don't know what they're talking about, right?
Right.
that's not my experience.
Well, I want
What?
somebody
Yeah,
experience.
that's not my experience.
Public school?
But at the time,
It was a long time ago. Maybe you
Yeah.
just don't remember.
Tell them how it is.
no. So in Catholic school, I'm a Catholic, but
Yeah.
it was Christian, same thing. But what I learned, like the religious part of it, my parents it was just being taught a specific like part about like religion that like, oh yeah, as part of Catholics are bad, and I was like, okay, like, that isn't necessarily all true. So my parents looked at it. They were like, okay, this isn't good because it was teaching like about how the Trinity was not true. And so we ended up going with another curriculum, and
They said the Trinity is not true.
Yeah.
And this is a
Catholic school.
Really?
Yeah, so it was very interesting.
Which one was missing from their equation? Are they saying the Father wasn't true, the Son wasn't
It's like
true?
everybody makes up their own.
Maybe there's an extra
Yeah,
one.
so that
Was it a
was
square?
the
It's like Shemp from the Three Stooges. He only shows. It's like Shemp from the Three Stooges, where he only shows up on certain episodes.
yes. So I got that, but after a while, I realized how much I wasn't learning in those schools. Like when my parents started homeschooling me, I couldn't count with my fingers. It was so bad.
Wow.
Like, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it wasn't right. Now I can do it. But before,
Well, I would hope so. You're 14 years old.
but before that, I couldn't do it. And
But he's got 6 fingers.
but I couldn't even read well. Like right now, I can read. Like,
I still can't read
That's
very
what homeschooling did to me. It literally transformed me from someone who couldn't do anything to someone who could do things very well.
And surprise, surprise, your family was able to do that without the assistance of the government, right?
Yes,
They didn't need
yes.
the government to teach you these.
Well, they're
things.
changing that.
They're
Well,
changing that. They're
A lot of my friends, they were like, "Oh, well, you're not being taught by like certified teachers," and I'm like, "I don't need to be taught by certified
Right.
teachers."
That's better anyway.
Yeah,
Nowadays,
exactly.
yeah.
And after a while, especially with like history, I love history, but all history, like you see from like Napoleon Bonaparte, it's just like people who were ambitious like him, that it's just like there was there's still that sense of like morality. There was still that sense of like, no matter how crazy he was, he still had that sense of wanting honor. And it just kind of transformed like a lot of the culture in France.
How about most dishonorable person in history?
Most
Most dishonorable.
Uh,
Just pick one. There's no right or wrong answer, is there?
uh,
Are we gonna get in trouble for this?
I'd actually say
Yeah. Let's do a fantasy draft for most dishonorable.
Yeah.
I'd say
Fantasy football draft for most dishonorable person in history.
Well, Hitler's got to be.
All right, let's-
Hitler's
let's
got to
wait,
be
let's
in
let
there,
him go
right?
first.
I actually want to say that
Joe,
like
Joe Biden.
in
maybe? Ah, you took mine.
I was gonna
That's
say
it.
that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
modern
Sorry.
I feel like the most like dishonorable person is in modern history today.
Really?
It's just there's so much corruption right now. There's just so much happening that it's on a completely different level than multiple other like
What about like Stalin though, or like Pol Pot, right?
But
These
you're
guys.
not
killed-
those at least had that sense of wanting a goal, but
But
What are you like? I'm killing 20 million people for this specific purpose.
but he's okay.
At least he's a guy who knows what he wants.
they were at least
Biden
competent.
doesn't even know what he's doing.
Yeah.
A lot of them is like wolves in sheep clothing. I mean, I think that people who are not saved, they're not saved. And they don't
Huh.
know at that point. But if you're talking
Huh.
like a Biden who's in the church,
Yeah.
he goes to church and he's speaking all this stuff and kind of, you.
Fostering the murder of babies.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, my first thought was Saddam. I mean, I don't know why I was thinking Saddam Hussein. But
So like I'm gonna go there, but like with the Rittenhouse trial, it's kind of that thing where it is testing like, can we defend ourselves and actually like the legal system be on our side.
Absolutely.
But we see how much our culture doesn't want us to be
Well,
able to
that's a
defend
good point.
ourselves.
That's
You know?
absolutely
Yeah,
true.
it's just I feel like the prosecution is just driven by the mob really and the culture and what they want to happen.
Well,
What are
you
your,
know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What are your thoughts on the Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment is the most important.
Oh, okay. All right. Good, good.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Rita says it seems like so many people nowadays don't know about Hitler and the consequences of a cruel dictator. I think it's important to learn lessons from our history so that it doesn't happen again. Durso says Bolsheviks are the worst.
Yeah. So I am.
We got to get back to Rittenhouse after he answers this question,
So-
though, because that's
I'm part Italian and part German. So
right.
I like to say,
he had all the bad guys.
It's just like the best of both worlds. It's Mussolini and Hitler. But, I talk about, my heritage and people get offended by it. And I'm like, well, we should learn from that. You shouldn't, get offended when I just say Hitler or something. It's like, yes, that person existed and they were flawed and, they did things that were bad.
Well, you're not allowed to hurt people's feelings now.
Yes.
These days,
So
yeah.
I don't want to hurt people's feelings.
You just
He wasn't trying to hurt your feelings.
I want to make a formal apology.
That's right.
He's going to
Good.
cry
See,
on the air.
he's
Billy
on
Chris
board.
is going to start
Yeah,
crying.
he's been through the training.
He's going to start crying again.
Yeah.
What are your friends your age?
You know what they
and,
did to Stalin, Trotsky, Marx? What do you think of Karl Marx?
So honestly, I think Marx was just someone who philosophically was driven.
Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily a good philosophy, but at least he understood the philosophy. So especially today.
Do you think he thought it was actually going to work?
Did I what?
Do you think he thought it was actually going to work?
I mean, how his culture was going, I think he did think it was gonna work. Because today, I think that politicians think it is going to work because they see how stupid people are, they were, because now they're waking up. But
Can you run against Biden on the next election?
I would if I could.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just it's similar circumstances in how it was in Russia at the time, because people were comfortable, and when you're comfortable you don't expect anything really. So I think Stalin did think it was going to work because the time was right, and he understood his philosophy well, and his plans did end up working. But it did end up falling apart.
Hey, yeah, well, depends on how you define working, right?
Well, so he did achieve his goal of successfully conquering the land, but then he failed at making it a utopia. So it was.
There actually is an interesting program on Netflix. Is it called How to Become a Tyrant?
Yes.
How to Become a Tyrant, and they do a bunch of different episodes on different tyrants throughout history. There's a controversial documentary called Europa. The last battle reveals a lot of information previously suppressed or unknown. We'll have to check that out maybe through a watch party. Let's get back to the Rittenhouse situation, because it's something that's hot on everybody's mind right now. Do you think, you're talking about culturally, we're seeing where people stand on the left and how they're completely anti his ability to protect himself? Same thing coming from the prosecution, really. And I don't think people realize that gun owners have this kind of an aftermath after saving their own life. Unfortunately, it's something that I deal with for a living. But do you think that the jurors in this case are in that room deliberating, concerned about potential backlash if they find him not guilty?
Yes. Of course, because they're talking about Kenosha, burning,
right?
And those are people who want to make the jury fear what happens, and they want to make them scared.
Do what we say,
exactly,
or we're going to set the entire city on fire.
It's mob rule, and it's mob rule.
That's how we got here in the first place, right? He said they already set it on fire.
Set it on fire. What are they gonna do?
That's how we got here in the first place.
And Kyle Rittenhouse goes out and he's like, I want to stop this. He had that sense of just I want to save what I can.
Now, I think sitting on the stand when he's sitting there, he wishes he had stayed home that night. But he's not on trial for doing something unwise or stupid. He's on trial for
doing something full
homicide, which is for that he is not guilty. If you watch those videos,
I haven't heard anybody speak to that at all, though. That he thought he was doing something good because people really make him out to be a villain. But when we all heard that something was going to happen up in Gettysburg, remember? Not that we were all, but
Manny McMahon was ready to rock and roll.
Manny McMahon wanted to go up there.
I was like,
right.
you guys are getting trolled. This is somebody who is instigating violence on purpose, and it turned out that was true. It turned out that was absolutely true. That the guy who put it out there was only doing it to get attention
It was just
and to cause
right.
trouble.
So you have to check yourself and be careful. But you know,
Manny McMahon was like, I'm gonna grab my ARs. I'm gonna go down there.
He didn't go there for
Burning
this
the flag in
Yeah.
Gettysburg on my watch.
So
We'd be talking about the Manny McMahon trial right
The
now.
Manny McMahon trial, right? Seriously, had he gone down there, they would definitely.
Mike T's in court again with Manny McMahon.
Manny McMahon.
He does know who Manny McMahon is.
Yeah, Manny
No.
McMahon is a regular guest on our program. No.
Is he allowed on
He's a
anymore?
character.
I don't know if he's allowed on anymore.
yeah, so but you know, especially like did you see like what happened? What they were talking about the video earlier today.
Yeah.
And it was about
The
how
difference in the resolution.
yeah,
of it.
right.
Yeah,
So they were talking about how the prosecution didn't submit their version. So it makes total like because they were trying to get in, like the defense was trying to get in contact with the Urban Air, and the Urban Air wouldn't give them the file. But then they find that recording with the prosecution.
Right.
That is just very, 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 very weird,
Yeah.
and it makes no sense why that would happen.
It's not
That's
fair.
why they're asking for a
You
mistrial.
yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
when you do this long enough, you see a lot of things that are simply not fair,
Right.
and it's frustrating. And I think a lot of people are naive to this. They don't realize that this stuff is going on, and a lot of them don't believe it. Maybe they don't want to believe it, but a lot of them don't believe it. And when they end up on the wrong side of the law, they're in for a rude awakening. That it's not like it is in the movies, you know. It's,
Right.
hey, we think that we've got this perfect system. Unfortunately, we do not.
No, and everybody thinks they'll be okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll be
That won't
okay.
happen to me.
Yeah.
That won't
Yeah.
happen to me,
I bet
so,
you before this case happened, if you described these facts to a lot of gun owners and
Oh,
said
sure.
this happened, they'd be like, "Oh, he's good. He's justified.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
he's good. That was self-defense. He can't get arrested for that." It's like, "Oh no,
But he did.
can't." Yeah, right. He did. Right, exactly.
Well, plus the prosecutor said so many things throughout the trial. I had an opportunity to watch some of it that were just completely false.
Ridiculous.
If you can
Yeah.
call him
You
a
know.
prosecutor.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you
no,
can,
so-
but this is the reality of the.
Could we bring up the
world
Michael
we're
Scott
living
clip?
in.
Do you have that Michael Scott clip? Can you bring that up?
Okay, just go on YouTube.
No, so there was this
This is it.
there was this one clip though, and it was talking about how like did you play Call of Duty? And he's like, yeah, I play Call of Duty. And he's like, would you agree that like the purpose of it is to shoot people and kill people? And he's like, no, it's just a multiplayer game where you play with your friends. And he didn't.
So you're going to arrest and put in jail everybody who's ever played a video
yeah,
game.
exactly. So
Did you play Duck Hunt too? He probably doesn't even know what Duck Hunt is.
I've actually played Duck
Oh,
Hunt.
you have
yeah,
played
all
Duck
right,
Hunt.
all right.
Yeah, that's
so,
when I was a kid.
But
was a fun game,
oh, there are guns in the game.
There's
That's
guns.
not good.
Duck Hunt has a gun.
Yeah.
So, but I find like he's reaching into his bag of tricks and he's like, oh, what can we get him on next? That's like completely, irrational.
It's like when he asked him what his urgency was when he was running towards the
exactly.
little fire, and he was like, "There was a fire."
Exactly.
Fire.
It's like when you see fire and it's on a building,
Yeah.
obviously you're gonna be like, oh shoot, I gotta run.
But I think the fact that the jury's taken this long shows us how much trouble we're in this country because you have folks who
They shouldn't have to
obviously
consider
they're
that.
yeah
They shouldn't have to consider that
Jury
much.
being out longer is more often than not a good thing for the defense.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it is.
It is.
But it's not an exact science. It's not like, oh yeah, we got the poker percentages, pot odds, or
Well,
anything like that.
Somebody, Carl said that they are doing bets or something like that.
Oh,
People
really?
are doing
Oh,
that.
really?
Verdict.
We
Did
can bet
you-
on almost anything in
Well,
Vegas.
we're in the gambling spirit. Did you see the way they ultimately
I was just
selected the
gonna-
final jurors?
Yeah, that was strange.
He had to
That was
reach
very
into
strange.
that.
I did
It's
see
like
them ask the judge about that. He said-
B6.
Yeah, right.
So when we looked at it, and Philly Chris was on the same page at that when he selected his own jurors,
Well,
we thought
I think what happened was he was selecting who would officially be
Taking
a
the
bad
alternate.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, but we saw it as a weird. I saw it as a bad thing. I was like, why would they do that? That's scary. He's like having to pick his own fate. And then I thought, but people on Twitter were going crazy, saying that's white privilege. He's picking his own thing. It's rigged.
What?
They went in that direction. I was so
They're
surprised.
even talking about racism now. I'm like, it's 3 white men being shot by 1 white man. It's a white judge. It's it's like how's there racism in this? You know,
BLM screaming out in front of the courthouse.
I would not.
A
wanna-
white prosecutor. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Somebody said like pick your own shovel, like dig your own grave, like basically like that to me would be frightening.
Yeah, it's like remember Indiana Jones where he got all the cups on the thing.
Oh yes.
And he's trying to pick the right one, and he drinks the wrong one, and he
Right.
turns into
Yes,
bones and
yes,
stuff.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
guy
yeah.
came out, he's like, he picked the wrong cup.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like written out. It's like, it's like all right.
Mm,
So
so
pull up some
Wrong
comments from
yeah, are there
Sean.
any questions? Yes.
It's not on the comments anymore.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, we got the
Here we
video?
go. Yes, 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 yes.
Quiet on the set.
Okay.
Okay, there's your comments.
All right. Let me see.
Wait. I thought we had a video.
Bing.
The documentary is from 2017 when email video file. You give the right to self-defense when you are the one that brings a gun. Yeah, okay.
Okay, now we'll go to the Michael Scott.
So then how would you defend yourself if you didn't bring the gun in the first place?
So if you
I'm going to use my imaginary gun.
that's why there's concealed carry. You
Right.
know, it's like you have the gun. You brought the gun with you. It's like there. So
It doesn't help you if you don't have it.
Exactly. It's like he even was like showing like the gun. He's like, this is what Kyle Rittenhouse did with the gun.
Oh, dude,
And
he
it's like,
broke
yeah.
every single rule.
I'm like, yeah,
every single firearm safety rule that there is known to man.
He put his trigger.
like-
He put his finger on the trigger. He wasn't even. He pointed it at the jury. You're
Right.
not
And
supposed
dude,
to point it at.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah,
We
I
just
know.
did a public service announcement with Jose Morales from Philly Firearms Academy after the Alec Baldwin incident. We put this video out there reminding people, hey, it's very sad what happened.
Yes.
Don't forget the rules of firearm safety. Always keep your gun pointed in a safe direction. Always keep your finger off the trigger.
Should
Treat
email it
every
to the
gun as if it's
prosecutor.
loaded. Right, seriously.
But even the prosecutor treated the gun like it was a toy.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally-
Well, it shows
Yeah.
so
Alec
little day.
Baldwin was
Yeah.
watching the trial
Exactly.
and just screaming.
Yeah.
there was this liberal.
Don't do that, you moron!
Oh, there was this liberal attorney who went on and posted something underneath it. He said, "Well, I'm an attorney and I've got no experience with guns and no interest in guns, and I like what he did. I think what he did was great. It puts people on the other side of what the victims may have seen." And I said, "And because you are that ignorant, that's why bad things happen."
Right.
Yes.
So if you're going to complain about guns, keeping them out of the hands of responsible citizens, then maybe you might want to look into a little bit and learn the rules of safety first.
Sure.
Like, see, Kyle
Total
Rittenhouse
dopes
was
out there.
responsible with his gun. You know, it wasn't like he was brandishing it. He had the gun. He had it with him, but he wasn't like carrying it. He was just had a sling over his shoulder. You know, it wasn't like he was like showing it off
It
or
certainly
anything.
wasn't an active shooter.
No.
That they're referring to.
They,
No.
well, right. They keep calling him the Kenosha shooter,
Right,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, people are like,
like
oh, he's a
word
criminal.
games.
It's like, how is he a criminal if he was defending himself? And, like, see, if there's a bear that's trying to attack you, would you just sit there and let the bear attack you?
Of course.
Exactly.
Mike, Mike's done that. Show me his cards.
So, but here's the thing.
Bear has a right
You know,
to
let's put
My name
let's
is
put the prosecutor.
Snowflakington.
Let's put the prosecutor in a cage with a bear.
Right.
Let's not give him a gun.
Well,
and
you
see if
might
he
be onto
wants a
something there.
and see if he wants a gun. And then if he wants a gun, then we can call him an active shooter and
Right.
murder
Well,
the
there
bear.
you go.
That's right.
If we
He's an
care, if
active
we
Yeah,
care,
yeah,
so,
actively
if we
shooting.
care
Yeah.
so much about animal rights,
Right.
That's
So,
right.
right.
Hey, he's an active shooter. Well, pull up this video. Get this prosecutor
All right.
going.
Okay,
Let's
we're
see
gonna
the
play
video.
the video.
okay,
Okay, here we go. Here's hoping it works.
yes,
So what does he do that night?
Bring it
Oh,
up.
let me tell you all the awful things Joseph Rosenbaum did. He tipped over a porta potty.
Back it up. Back it up
No
to the
one in?
beginning so they can hear from the beginning.
yeah, definitely.
Because he's describing
does
the
he
first
do that
guy who
night?
attacked Rittenhouse.
Oh, let me tell you all the awful things Joseph Rosenbaum did.
my, they're
He tipped
so
over a porta
awful.
potty. that had no one in it. He swung a chain.
Wow.
He lit a metal garbage dumpster on fire.
Wow.
Oh, and there's this empty wooden flatbed trailer that they pulled out in the middle of the road, and they tipped it over to stop some bearcats, and they lit it on fire. Oh, and he said some bad words. He said the N-word.
So now he thinks the N-word is not a big
Right,
deal.
yeah.
Is that what he's saying?
So-
he's saying, big deal.
Yeah, so
what does he do?
He's making little details major things. You know, he's like, oh well, he lit a garbage can on fire. Like,
Well,
you know,
what he's doing is he's talking about the guy who attacked Rittenhouse, and what he's saying is
that night.
The other side, the defense, is going to bring these things up, and you shouldn't consider this because it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly.
So
it's really part of a normal peaceful protest.
All right, lighting garbage cans on fire, right?
It's like we can
and saying and shouting the N-word, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like I can light.
We just showed up. I can't say that. I can't.
But
if we even joke about it, it's going to be taken out of context. They're going to have a video of us saying it, so we can't even.
Maybe it'll be worth it then.
No, but I mean, if there's gonna come a day where we're not gonna be able to get rid of garbage, and we're gonna have to light our garbage cans on fire to get rid of our garbage.
Oh, that guy can't do it anymore because he's dead.
Yeah,
So
I mean, you know, only some of the other things you did was try to bash his head in.
But that stuff that incites.
Never mind.
But that incites violence.
Pointed a handgun at his face.
That incites violence.
Yeah. Big deal.
Right. What's the big deal there? You should
tried to steal his gun. Right.
Yeah.
Lunged at him, tried to steal the rifle.
Exactly.
What does he say? He took the Alec Baldwin safety course. He forgot Rosenbaum.
Yeah, right.
He forgot Rosenbaum threatened to kill him twice. Big deal.
Big deal.
He threatened to kill him twice. Right? Do it in the prosecutor's voice.
Right.
Oh, let me tell you what he did.
Can you find this?
He threatened
video?
to kill Rittenhouse twice.
All right, so can you find this video? There is this video where it's like Joe Biden was talking about like what he was to do if someone like to defend himself.
Oh, he said something like, "Why can't you just shoot him in the leg, man?"
So it was.
Oh, fire 2 shots in the air.
That one.
Buy a shotgun.
Buy a shotgun.
What happens when the bullets land?
Well, that's one thing, but the other thing is that if anybody ever wants to rob the Biden household, they would now know they fire both shots of their double-barrel shotgun in the air.
Yeah.
It's like 1, 2,
12
all right,
gauge,
you're out,
12
let's go.
gauge. No, both shots. That means they have no ammunition left.
Right,
to shoot them with.
Yeah.
So it's not intimidating.
Yeah. You know exactly how to do that.
Right.
So it sounds to me like you have been educated on the rules of firearm safety growing up.
I'm kind of a competitive 22 shooter.
Oh, no kidding.
I also shoot archery and
That's
Oh, cool.
awesome.
I
Do you
thought it
belong
was just
to a
common
club?
sense.
Yeah.
Which club?
It's called West Clown Sportsmanship.
Oh, cool.
So it's very, very fun to do stuff.
Yeah,
there.
that's great. That's great.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
We ought to get him out on the range for a special event or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any research on gun laws?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. General stuff.
I might know a guy who wrote a book about Pennsylvania's gun laws.
Yeah. Probably get you a copy.
He might be able to get you an autographed copy.
No,
I know a guy.
I know a guy.
I might know a guy.
I made
Hey,
him
you
an
heard of this guy?
I made him an offer. You couldn't.
Right.
refuse.
Yeah, there you go. I'd be happy to hook up a Paisan like yourself.
There we go.
And we got 3 Italian guys sitting behind the microphone here this evening. I'm sure we're going to walk outside and the FBI is going to be sitting there taking pictures, right?
You should have Will out to a seminar.
Yeah, absolutely.
come on out.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the FBI, sorry to cut you off, Mike. Hello, drone or whatever flying vehicle. They had footage
Yes.
of Kenosha thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, we forgot.
And nobody's like, by the way, what the flying doodle was the FBI doing there?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Why?
was this planned or something?
Oh, they're everywhere.
Yeah, it's like,
No, they're going after the teacher. I mean, the parents, domestic terrorists now too.
Yeah,
Flagging them all,
that's true.
and they
True.
can't.
Will's out of the system, though. He doesn't have to deal with that.
That's
The FBI knew exactly where to look too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I think that's the footage that was in question today.
Yes,
The resolution.
that was the footage. Yeah. It's very sketchy
Apparently
stuff.
FBI didn't
But,
send it to the defense.
You know, my parents were like, it might, and they're trying to go for a mistrial. You
Yeah,
know, they're trying to buy as much time as they can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're trying to like make it so that the jury is so scared to make any decision that it ends up going to a mistrial, and it makes sense. But you know,
Yeah,
I think no
the
matter
judges
what
will
the
be-
outcome, everybody's going to be ticked off one way or another.
yeah.
I think it's going to be a hung jury and then probably a mistrial or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, Billy Chris made
That's
that.
my prediction.
He made that.
Let's
prediction
hope
pretty
they're not.
boldly.
Let's hope they don't get hung.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Right.
definitely
I
not.
just wanted to give a quick shout out to my friend Jessica, who's listening in California.
Jessica,
Jessica.
in California. Hey now.
Uh,
Jessica,
So
hey now.
my grandparents
Jessica,
now
hey
live in
now.
California.
Hey now.
Yeah.
What's that?
this?
My grandparents now live in California.
They do.
So yeah.
Are they trying to escape or?
I mean, the gas prices are pretty fun down there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, definitely. Fun.
Yeah.
We're actually going to start a GoFundMe for Jessica's gas bill. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, the gas
For the
prices
fuel.
have significantly risen in California.
You got a fan, Will.
Yeah.
You got a fan over here. 2 fans.
Shout out to Will.
You got Durso. Kudos to you, Will. Rita says, I think Will is awesome. Well, we got the Will fan
Will is pretty
here
awesome,
on the Mike G
yeah.
in the Morning
Jeremy's
program.
here.
And Jeremy's here. I'm late. What's up, everyone? You will catch up, Jeremy.
Yeah, not much has happened. Yeah, we just been talking about it.
There's lots of stuff going on.
I mean,
SM Durso says, hello, Jessica. Give her a hey now. Hey now.
Hey now.
There you go. I like it. Give it a shot. Do it again. Let me hear your radio voice.
Hey now.
Hey, yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
so
He's a natural. He's a natural.
So it's my enthusiasm in like tech and radio stuff is grown over the years, but it's always been it first started as a passion to do YouTube. And I would always like research like what was the best thing to like record videos with, and then I was like mics and cameras and computers, and then I got deeper into it and I was like, I want to start this.
That's cool.
So
That's good.
it kind of just took me by force, and I ended up wanting to get involved in it.
Yeah.
And
you're natural.
and I'm like, I want to use that for to do God's will. And I find the best way I can do that is to do stuff like this and help my church out, and
Awesome.
I think if you put God
Definitely.
in it, you're gonna go far.
Yep. That's the name of the game, right?
yeah.
What are your thoughts on quantum entanglement?
Yeah.
And Jessica just said, a GoFundMe for my gas. LOL. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Right.
all right. Hey now.
What's it, $19 million a gallon in California right now?
I know I was looking at it, and my grandparents don't even they have cars, but they barely drive them.
Well, yeah.
So it's like no wonder
they
the gas.
can't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
They'd be
So-
starving if they
Yeah.
bought gas.
California.
Cost you a couple of hours to start it.
Yeah, and like what happened in Texas last year with like the blackouts, and they had like oil, but then pipelines ended up closing down, and that just shows like the impact that like.
I think we'll see more of that.
Yeah,
this year.
pipelines-
We talked about that on the show.
Prediction?
Yeah, pipelines are closing down. So what happened in Texas might happen for the entire East Coast, maybe
one
the
they're
whole
talking
country.
about
Yeah,
closing now
Yeah,
could affect us in
exactly.
the Northeast. So
it's
rolling
yeah.
blackouts coming to a theater near you.
Yes,
Yeah.
get your tickets now.
Right.
Make California.
Well,
Make
I
California.
would love to have Will back on the program. He's
Definitely.
funny,
Absolutely.
smart,
He's a
and
friend of the show. Well,
Next week on Mike G.
we got to give him a nickname, though. What do we call him?
nickname.
Young Will?
We need a
Young
younger
Young Will?
perspective. We need him, but even he has a very
Greek poet.
older perspective too.
Millennial Will.
Yeah,
I don't
Just
think
call you old.
he's not millennial. He's
I'm
like
a-
Gen Z.
Oh,
what do
it's
you-
even
I thought it was
younger.
Gen-
You're below.
I think they're
Gen Z.
numbers now.
Gen X.
Generation
It's
one.
Gen X.
Generation
So
one.
you can give us a lot of information.
Yeah.
I like
Who
X's
names
anyway.
these?
X's
Gen
are
X.
But
X's
he
are
did,
cool.
do you think you fit in with Gen X and their culture? Because a lot of things I see on TikTok, you sound
No.
really.
Well, I mean, actually, so I fit in with a specific part of Gen X.
Huh.
So
So there are like-minded
yes,
teenagers?
There are a lot of like-minded teenagers, actually.
Really?
And they're all homeschooled.
Of
And
course.
yeah, so there's like I have a lot of friends in the homeschool, like, and all day like
Homeschool well.
Yeah, the homeschool world, and homeschooling is growing so much. There's just
Right.
so much happening with it, but there's that same feeling of like, you know, that knowledge that we have. It's like Len Beck refers to it as like the hero generation, where it's just like, well, not necessarily that we're heroes, but it's like part of us is just so keyed in on what's happening. Like what's happening is our lives.
Sure.
It's like, you know, the left has made it so like everything has become politicized so that they can control it. But they've made everything their business. So now all the kids, they're seeing this and they have common sense, and they're linking the dots and how.
But are they? Are they? Because
homeschool.
Oh, homeschool.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
so
homeschool will.
That's why I'm saying this is specific to that.
Homeschool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that.
Because I think a lot of kids don't.
No.
For example,
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody recently, and he was saying that he's noticed, and he's an older guy. He's not as old as Philly Chris, but no, I'm just kidding. He's an older guy,
Older than
and he
me.
was saying that
Nobody's older than me.
that he
I was in the
notices.
Senate for 120
My
years.
dad's older than me. Yeah.
And this guy was saying that he notices that nowadays, every time he watches a commercial or a television program
always
or a
some
movie,
propaganda.
exactly,
Yeah,
there's an
yeah.
agenda. They're
Yeah.
pushing some kind of social narrative, social justice.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you guys shut up over there?
No.
Trying to do a radio
It's a
program.
live show over here.
No. So like.
Excuse us.
But hold on. So he said that he notices they're always trying to push this on you,
Right.
and he's sitting there and he was watching one TV program. They were doing it again, and he was saying, "Why are they shoving this down our throat? Just knock it off
Exactly,
already."
yes,
But what I
yes.
said to him was, guys like you and I watch this and we recognize it. Maybe even homeschool will recognize
homeschool
it.
will.
But there are a lot of kids out there,
No.
young kids that are watching this and they
Taking it in,
don't
man.
recognize it,
Right.
and they're being brainwashed, and it's just normal to them.
Well, when I was his age and I was watching Sesame Street and stuff, I mean, I just took it all in.
Yeah. So a lot
Trying
of
to be
that.
funny there, but
Like.
Why?
no, I'm just at like 14. I was watching Sesame Street.
When you were his age, gotcha.
Why?
Do you watch Sesame Street?
I
Are you
watched.
joking?
Well, I was talking about me at your age.
Hey, he's like, what do you got against Sesame Street, Chris?
No, I was trying to say he's way ahead of me, but I'm so dumb I couldn't even get it out right.
Sesame Street is
I was
become
throwing snowballs at
child
cars at
propaganda.
14.
Sesame Street's propaganda.
Yeah.
Well, it
now,
is
now it is.
It is
Yeah.
now. Big Bird.
I
Big
said
Bird
that,
got the
right?
vax.
I used to watch
Get
it.
the vax,
I
right?
used to watch it,
Sure,
but
yeah.
not anymore. But now most of the time I just listen to like Glenn Beck, Steve Dace, and
Yeah, well, that's,
yeah.
you're doing the right thing.
It-
Probably more intelligent than Big Bird, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
But now
Cookie Monster was
I see
that's
what's-
the Count. He was a sharp guy. The Count was a sharp guy.
I see all that's
Way ahead of his
happening
He still is.
in like our. I see all that's happening in just like our education system, just in general.
Right.
And I feel like that's part of my responsibility to fix that. But then at the same
Yeah,
time,
adults have screwed things up pretty good for you guys.
but
yeah.
at the same time, I feel like these kids are their minds are being poisoned to the point where they can't think for themselves.
It's true.
But some of them who were raised good to begin with, like I have friends who are the same age as me. They weren't raised like the kids are raised like now.
Right.
So they still have that element of who they were before this.
What are your thoughts on the vaccine?
Hold on,
Okay,
because
sorry.
I think he raised a really important
Go
point
ahead,
there. Because there is so much of this coming from whether it's the mainstream media, television, Hollywood, and the education systems. If you're not homeschooled,
Hollywood
right?
is turning too.
Of
Hollywood,
course.
yeah.
But I think the factor that gets you away from that, the way to avoid that, is if you have parents who are involved in the raising of their children, they recognize it, they put in the time and the effort to ensure that their child isn't brainwashed. And it's not an easy feat these days.
No.
But I specifically recall as a young child watching television programs, Nickelodeon, PBS, right?
Well, they were good at the time though. So
Well, I wouldn't go that far because I remember them talking about things in like the Bill Clinton. I was young during the Clinton administration. They were talking about things that were on his agenda and how these are good things for society.
So
right?
they were always like
we
that
care
then.
about people.
What?
It's more
If you
pervasive
care
now,
about
I
people,
think,
then
but,
you'll be all about this.
Right,
and I'm sitting there thinking, well, I care about people, so
course you
I
do.
must be for that.
Right.
And my dad would step in and say, well, you know, you're not understanding something. This is what they're not telling you, and this is the reality.
Right.
There's more to this story.
Right.
And if I didn't have somebody there telling me, hey, ask more questions.
Question it,
There's more to the story. Look at this from all angles. Educate yourself. Bring some additional information in there.
Right.
And you got this from all programs, Nickelodeon, PBS, because they were clearly pushing one specific thing and very narrow with their coverage, obviously. But if you didn't have that adult as a child coming in and saying, hey, there's more to the story, how are you to know? How are you to not be raised thinking, well, I care about people. I want to be a good person. I want to be good for society. So
Manipulate your-
so I'm on board
thoughts,
with
yeah.
I'm on board with the Green New Deal, let's say, or
Of course.
whatever the agenda may
Of course,
be,
you're a
right?
good You're a good
Yeah.
person.
So it's. I feel like that's just like a common tactic they use. They make it seem like, oh well, if you're a good person, you should be with us, you know?
Right.
And so it's like.
Whether it's climate change, right?
That's what the devil does, though. It's like, oh, you know, you wanna be, you know, you wanna follow God. If you follow God, oh yeah, come with me. You know, it tries to be that sense of, like, discipline. That's like on a different level where it tries to draw you away from what's important.
Right.
But
Deception,
exactly. So I forget there. Going back to the like what my thoughts were on the vaccine. There was a very good interview that was done on The View earlier yesterday, I think it was. But
oh darn it! I missed it. I usually catch the View.
Oh yeah, it's my
I just kidding.
I go
Ross,
straight
can
from
you pull it
Sesame
up?
Street
It's
to
very
the
good. No.
Yeah, I love him telling Russ to listen to. Yeah,
pull it
yeah, Russ,
up.
do your job. That's
It's
right.
very
Hit
good.
it, Russ.
No, no.
Just say hit it, Russ. And then
Yeah, hit it. No, but
I'll hit it. I'll smash the
what's
laptop
wrong with
and
it?
soundboard.
What were they saying on The View?
but so they had you know, this conservative woman on. She had written a book, and she was talking like they're like instantly before they even talked about the book, they were like, "Are you vaccinated? Why aren't you vaccinated?" And she's like, "Well, here's why. Because you know, there's a 99% chance that I'm gonna be able to survive it." And there's more consequences to taking the vaccine than not taking the vaccine. So I'm not going to take the vaccine if it's not going to really, like, change anything.
Right.
You know, and she was like, you know, our immune systems will be able to adapt to those different strains and stuff. So
Wasn't it on The View that a couple of vaccinated people tested positive prior
Yes.
to...
Yeah. So it was...
They pulled them off.
Yeah. So... It just goes to show how, you know,
And you're just
fake
quoting,
it is,
you're just
yeah.
talking about a conversation that I want to be very clear because we have gotten kicked off of YouTube a couple of times for.
I'm talking about the conversation.
You're just talking about the conversation that they had. He said, this person said this, and another person said this. That's all he said. He's not espousing his own views about the vaccine or anything of that nature, right? He's just talking about what somebody else said. He's just describing.
It was also
And if Russ would just do his
job.
job and pull up the video already.
Yeah, so it was also.
Oh, we've got it. Cool.
Oh,
Let's watch it.
Let's
Let's watch it. Well, you got the 33-minute long version.
It's 34 minutes. I
Okay.
have no idea. See, the thing is, this may come as a shock to you, but I don't watch The View. So I don't know what interview he's talking about.
Maybe there's a timestamp for it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, I'll check the.
Hey, now.
Yeah, maybe the comments
Yeah.
they'll be like, oh,
Alright,
check out
so,
over at this point over here where they talked about.
Yeah, but the CDC even confirmed.
Does this even have a
that.
description? They don't.
They are starting to recognize natural immunity.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. So
Did you have it? Did you have the virus?
Yeah.
You don't have to. You know, I guess that's a personal question,
2009.
right? Hey, you got herpes, Philly Chris?
Let me get my card out. Hold on.
I gotta get my passport.
Oh, SM Durso said bingo is racist, so we better be
Bingo is
careful.
racist.
Yeah, bingo is
Oh,
racist.
All right, well then Scrabble.
Yeah,
Where-
I'm just
what
looking
did
at
he
the
say?
comments.
Scrabble.
It was
Oh
a
wait.
while ago.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah,
Scroll
everything's racist.
Philly Chris's.
Wait, but I can spell bad words in Scrabble. Scramble's bad.
I like
there you
how
go.
Russ
It's all
changed his
bad.
name.
No.
Russ changed her name online to Homeschool Will.
There we go.
Will.
No.
I
Homeschool
really do
Will.
like that. That was very Trump.
No.
You just gave the name out.
HSW in the
I do want
house.
to say one thing. The
HSW.
only person I know who I can't say their name, but I know somebody personally who was homeschooled, and they were literally working for the 2 top companies in the entire country.
That's so-
That is
I
true.
just want to say, and I don't want to list the names because I think it's more private, but these
Yeah.
are literally the top,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
top of the top. Like,
Think of if you could make up a place that your kid works and brag about it. Yeah, that's where that person works.
I'm just gonna make a very simple guess. SpaceX. I probably guessed it.
Were you in your mind tricks, Will? They taught you how to read minds in homeschool.
Homeschool, ladies and gentlemen.
He takes mind reading at homeschool.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's that.
I guess that can't get you in
Yeah.
trouble to say that. If that were true, right? Hypothetically, you can't get in trouble for saying, I know somebody who was homeschooled and worked for SpaceX. I mean,
Yeah. No, but there's just.
Next week, Elon Musk will be on the show.
Yes!
He'll be on the program.
Yes, we need to get Elon Musk on the show.
Yeah. We do.
Will's gonna boss him around
Well,
like
you
he
know
does
him,
to
don't
us.
you?
He's
He
gonna be like,
homeschools
hey,
us.
Elon,
Yeah.
pull this up real quick.
Yeah. Well, he created a school for his kids.
I love
Interesting.
how- I love how
Interesting,
Will's not
very
afraid to go
interesting.
right for it.
It's the
He
original
goes right for the
homeschool.
tough topic.
Yeah.
Sure, homeschool Will knows that.
Does anyone have any other questions?
He's ready. Look at him.
Hello.
He's like, hey, I got stuff to do.
Which homeschool do you go to?
I think we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up.
All right, cool.
All right.
Definitely.
Anybody?
Did we
Anything
want
else for the good of the
Susan
order?
on, or-
What's that?
Did we want to see if Susan wanted to say? Oh, I guess she would have came in, right?
Yeah, she would have came in if she
Yeah,
wanted
sure.
to.
Yeah.
And she's
All right,
probably
Play the video.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want.
got
But
Next week.
next week.
at this this very special event.
Yes.
We're spending time with the Freedom Station family. Anything else for the good of the order?
Peace and love.
Yeah. And pray.
That's all the time we've got for today. Stick around for We the People, the Constitution Matters. Pastor David Whitney, Professor Phil Duffy. I'll be joining as your legal analyst. We miss you, Ellie. Daddy loves you. Big thanks to Homeschool Will.